A&B is the greatest archive anyone could ever ask for.
You know, of all the books I've read, of all the other online tutorials I've seen, this was the missing key.
Every video is like packed with this information that I would never be able to get anywhere else. So I would say this is the greatest resource for learning animation.
For me, A&B Animation Library is hands down the best animation learning resource that I've seen. I've tried all the tutorials, I've gotten all the books. I've never been able to really grow until I found A&B.
And it's incredible. I've only just begun it, but I definitely am getting more from that than I did from my 1.5 years of college.
I've noticed definitely that my animation has improved a lot, and it's more alive than ever. And what I also like about this animation training is that you also gain real confidence.
Real Animator Training Library is unequivocally the best resource for animation, 2D animation, traditional hand-drawn animation that I've seen.
So I wholeheartedly recommend the A&B Real Animator Training Library to anybody who wants actual knowledge and actual applicable concepts to create their own animation and to move forward in the field of animation and to set your work above those that are just kind of teaching themselves and not learning these tried and true classic concepts.
A&B is motivated by his students' successes and improvements. He's a great teacher, a great animator with over 20 years experience in the industry, so you can't really get much better than that. I strongly recommend him to anybody.
I'm thinking on how to put in words what I feel about it. I love that. It approached me from my dream of becoming an animator. Every cent I paid in there was worth it.
I like that the library is structured. I can go back and watch it anytime I want to, and he's just got so much knowledge. And I just highly recommend it to anyone who's out there looking to learn traditional 2D animation.
So thank you, MB, so much, and thank you so much for all you done for me.
So, are you gonna join the library?
Hello, and welcome once again to another edition of Real Animator Livestream A&B Animation. I'm looking forward to today's stream because it's going to be themed for the month. It's a Halloween month, and we're doing a piece of Halloween animation. And I've got a question in the global Facebook community. It's something that we cover in the Real Animator Training Library, but I always say that it's about timing. First cause of all animation, timing. But it's one of those things that has to be developed over time. It's something that you build through experience and instinct by constantly putting into practice the things that you've learned about timing, slowing in and slowing out. But many, I've noticed, now some people who come out of the Real Animator Training Library, which is the world's best learning resource in the craft of hand-drawn animation, they get it. But I have noticed that there are other people, not just from the Real Animator Training Library, they've got the best information. If they don't get it, then there's so many amateurs and self-taught people on the internet who are struggling with this. And I got a question from a member, and they said, how do you know how to get better at instinctively timing your work, and so that you don't, when you in between it comes out all right, and you don't have to keep adding in-betweens and removing in-betweens and all those kind of things? First and foremost, you always have to add in-betweens and remove in-betweens and tweak things because, that's just the nature of the game. But I know what they mean. And you see me do it regularly on my live streams. And I'm always talking about it. I'm always saying the 24 frames a second, half a second is 12 frames. and a quarter of a second is 6 frames. Anything between that is 8 frames. Anything between 12 and 24 is 16 to 14 frames. And you basically work on, is it going to take half a second? Is it going to take like 1 second? And anything below half a second, you know that it's a quarter of a second and it's going to be very, very quick, right? Even half a second is quick, right? Because we're drawing these frames all the time, we think, oh my God, I've done so many drawings. But understand that 2 seconds will go by like that, right? 2 seconds will go by like that. And that's 48 drawings. Could be just 24 drawings, but that's still a lot of drawings. So we as animators, we tend to lean towards the negative aspect, which is, this is taking me long to do, and I want to save time, and I don't want to do that. And then you forget the things that you've already learned in the training library from day one, the basics, with the basic bouncing ball. Remember when we go back to the walk cycle exercises, I take you through a walk, a run, and a jog cycle, and all of those cycles are 24 frames loops. How is it that I can make a guy walk in 24 frames, do 2 steps in 24 frames? How is it I can make a guy run, which is a quicker movement, in 24 frames, the same amount of time? And how is it that I can make a guy jogging in 24 frames, which is the same amount of time? And it's all to do with the spacing and the slowing in and slowing out, and the distance, the spacing between your extreme frames. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today, since we've got that question. So before we jump in and do that, let's say a few hellos to the people who are online. We've got Alexander Pantin. Bonjour, monsieur. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to speak any more French than that. I'm guessing you're French from the surname. But if not, apologies. I hope you are well, sir. Silver Sun, how are you? Good to see you. Zedbo, I'm just being lazy lately. Probably one of my off days. You know what? It's all right to be lazy, right? It's all right. Like the pendulum swings, and if the pendulum stops swinging, you're dead. You're not busy. You're not lazy, right? And the sooner you guys give yourself a break, right? It's not being lazy. It's giving yourself momentum to go into the work stage with greater vigor, right? The measure of the swing to the left is the measure of the swing to the right. The measure of the swing to what you call laziness is the measure of the swing to enthusiasm. So if you are feeling that you're being lazy, you're getting restless. And that feeling of I'm lazy is the momentum building inside you to come back and hit your work even harder, right? If you think you're working and you're staying there all the time, you're going to burn yourself out and lose enthusiasm, right? Enthusiastically swing into the work, And if that pendulum's going super fast, right, like a propeller, you can't even see it move. You'll feel that you're working all the time, right? A little bit of philosophy there for you. Repro baby, how are you? Red Frogs, haven't seen you in a long while. Give me some tassel. Yeah. Three Leaves, how are you? Kyle, hello to you. All right, we have done all our hellos. Let us now switch scenes. And I'm going to turn this mic off. And I'm going to turn this mic on. Hopefully this mic is becoming loud and clear. We are not doing the beast. We're not doing the beast. I've been blocking out really rough. It's really rough and not timed. Is this thriller animation with Gracie Goodbear, right? So I'm not really going to do much more on this in the stream. I'm going to talk more about timing because I've just drawn a bunch of keys and breakdowns, right? And I don't really know how it's timed. Now this piece of animation. Daydream Dragon, how are you? Good to see you. Happy Tuesday to you. Just saw that. Sorry, my friend. So this piece of timing, right? This piece of animation is a tricky one because it could be set to the thriller music. and I haven't really been timing it or listening to the Thriller music. I've just been looking at the moves in the video and drawing poses and working out how that'll animate and putting in my own kind of personality in there, because if we copy the video exactly, AI can do that and there's no point, right? It's got no instant appeal coming from a human interpretation. So, I'm not going to talk about music because I may want to put this on the internet and I won't be allowed to use Thriller music because of the license. So I'm going to be open with the timing so it can be adaptable to any kind of similar kind of beat, right? So I'm going to talk about how we go about timing this thing. And I'm going to draw timing charts and talk about what I think the timing will be and explain to you thoroughly. Gracie looks kind of nicer in her wild zombie form. Well, it's all done deliberately, you know. It was hard work trying to make her look nice in her wild zombie form, but I managed. I feel I somehow managed. It took a bit of designing with all these various goes that I had, and it familiarized me with some shapes that I could use to go ahead and animate her. So that's what we're going to do. But before we do that, I'm going to open the group and read out the question. Can you show the reference? Just Google Michael Jackson Thriller. That was what I took for reference. I just paused freeze-framed the video on YouTube, and you can see Michael Jackson is walking to the screen, but I kind of did my own kind of storyboarding on the fly with a long shot and a look here, and so he doesn't, you know, it's my own animation really. It's like I'm looking at Jackson's movements and I'm not even really freeze framing it. I'm just saying he's walking like a zombie shuffling, and I'll just imagine how Gracie would do that, and that's what I did. So just watch the Thriller video, and so for example, Jackson's got his eyes fixed on you, but I got Gracie kind of like going off into the fairies, going into space, and then re-looking at you like that. And then I use that as a theme when she does her like zombie head click like that, right? So we're going to talk about that. But before I talk about that, I'm going to, let's leave it on a nice picture of Gracie so people can, what's a nice one there? That's a nice one. So we can see what the questioner was asking me about. So let's open the group. Grayson, how are you? Let's open it up. AMB Animation. So for those of you who have not joined this group on Facebook, join it. It's absolutely free. We've got 4.1k, 4,100 members in this group. Real Animator growth, development, and progress is free for all. You get, if you go over to featured, you get a trial. You get a free trial of the Real Animator training library here. All you have to do is click on, you have copy this passcode, right? And you click on the link in there, and come on, don't know what's going on there. Is it a dead link? I'll have to see to that. Server not found. Is Vimeo down at the moment? That's not good. Okay, no. Vimeo is up. So let's go into that. So Vimeo have been doing things, turning it into a showcase. Right, so you get these 9 free lectures from the Real Animator Training Library. Now some of these like the Ask AMB is no longer available. Only legacy members have access to that. But you basically get these, and this is where you kind of learn about timing here. So you want to really learn about timing. This video I'm giving you today with the live stream, you're going to learn about timing a lot. But you want to really learn how to time, you got it for free here. So you got the basic bouncing ball, 1.5 hours of lecture there. 1 hour 58 minutes for the basic pendulum swing. Basic walk to be honest, it's only about an hour and a half. The rest of it's all chat. Later on in the training library, I started removing the chat halfway through the basics archive because it wasn't productive. Basic walk, timing the legs. Okay, spacing the legs. So check that out, right? But anyway, let's go to the questioner. So the questioner, what is she asked? Kristen, I believe her name is. We can see Cameron, who's all the time working hard, doing his advanced animation exercise, doing perspective drawing in his spare time, anatomy drawing in his spare time. He's an inspiration to all of you. You should all follow his example, all right? I'm trying to find her question. Yeah, I was notified about it. That's really annoying. Okay, here it is, right at the top. Duh. So, here's what she says. I clicked more and more on, right. Hi AMB, I'm considering attaching a work in progress for context, but I decided it best to leave as only a question. When I'm in the middle of animating a scene and notice that the timing or spacing feels off, I'm often unsure of the best way to go about fixing it, right? Do you have any strategies, or would you be open to modeling an example where an issue only becomes apparent during in-betweening? See, this is where I think Kristen has not been focusing on the training in the training library, because we should not be in-betweening. But anyway, I'll go into that. I'm particularly interested in how you approach identifying and correcting something that might not be obvious in the early keys or breakdowns, especially for somebody still developing that intuition, right? And that is a play in it. You need to. This stuff won't come to you. You gotta build it like over time. It's like a little kid learning to read. I'd appreciate seeing how someone with more experience tackles this kind of problem. As much as I'm working to develop a stronger instinct for these things, having a more actionable example would be really helpful, right? So my response is, and I'm going to read my response rather than just jump it straight into it, because my response is very important, and we're not going to do some of this on today's stream, right? Hi, Kristen. My first immediate suggestion would be to time the animation out, which is what we're going to do live today, and draw in rough breakdowns, then test the breakdowns in accordance to your timing. This is called a pose test, right? Which I've shown many times. And I've shown it in the professional animation lecture with the dialogue with the tiger, which I demonstrate in the pro archive with the tiger dialogue. If you still feel uncertain by the choppy movement in the pose test, because the pose test when it's timed out will be kind of jumpy, right? And want a better feel, scribble some rough in-betweens and add them to the pose test, and keep your drawing to a minimal. Ideally, the pose test should be done before any in-betweening takes place, to give you the feel for the timing, right? So we can't really do a pose test today because I'm going to be doing the timing today. But the pose test is, so I'm going to be answering her question a little bit more in detail today. So the pose test is already here, right? But I've got to figure out. So I've got all these drawings. I can scrub them really fast and you won't see anything, right? Or I can scrub them really slow and it won't have any real relation other than like, so if I'm going like that, it's like, okay, they're moving, but if they were all at the same time, metatonic timing, then it doesn't really. So if I scrub it like that, it kind of has something, but it's not really got the movement to the way you want it. But you can see that it's moving. So I've drawn all my keys, and hey Cameron, how you doing? I've drawn all my keys, and I've drawn all my breakdowns already for this particular stage. I haven't done the kind of like zombie walk, which I might do a little bit later if on stream, right? Figure it out, right? But I've done all the keys and breakdowns that I want to do for this bit, right? But if I take them to my pencil tester, if I take each of these frames and put them in an editing package, or I can do that here, I can change the duration here, but I don't like doing that in this program. I still won't know what the timing is, right? Which is why we draw a timing chart sometimes for assistance, but also when we want to test it and do the post-test, right? Before we go any further to see, is it working? Does it have the feel, right? So before we go in and start in-betweening, which is what Kristen has done, she's like jumped in and started in-betweening and thinking of the timing in her head, which is admittedly what I do in the training library. I say, okay, this is going to be here, and we don't really give a physical example of a post-test. So until we get to the Pro Archive, because I'm trying to instill into you that timing thing. So here it's like you got to really kind of then, once you've got it all timed out, you got to take it away and hold each drawing. So if I'm going to say I'm going to hold this drawing for 12 frames, I've got to make it 12 frames in the timeline, right? If I say I'm going to hold this drawing for 2 frames, I've got to make it 2 frames in the timeline. If I say I'm going to hold this drawing for 8 frames, I've got to make it 8 frames in the timeline. And then I will do all of that to each one of these drawings because no in-betweens have been done. And then I will watch it. And I will say, you know what, I want to see that pose a bit longer, or that pose is taking a little bit too long. I'm going to cut some of the in-betweens there. So that way you kind of get a feel for it. Some people, especially when you're a beginner, they like to get it all down to 2s, really rough and scribbly, so they can look at it. But as you start getting better and better, you don't need to fill in the gaps and have that security blanket. This is why I always say animation software is a bad place to start for beginners, because say I drew this beast thing, right? I in between did all myself and did it, but a lot of the time you're constantly like scrubbing and going, is it fluid? Is it fluid? If it's fluid, it's good. If it's fluid, it's good. And I know it's right, but fluid doesn't mean good. I was on Instagram and I saw somebody. I like to support people who are exploring with hand-drawn animation. They come in my timeline and they've got no likes, just 1 or 2 likes. And there's this guy or girl, I don't know. She's doing these really cute whales and fishes and things. And she's getting like 1 like or 4 likes. And I'm thinking like, this is quite nice actually. I like it. So I click like on it. And if I feel that I've got something helpful to say, I say it. I tend not to comment because I don't like to force my opinion on people. Unless they've asked, but I could really feel that this person's really trying. So they used AI to in between their rough animation, which was all on 4s or 6s. And they said, I like the AI, look how fluid it is. And I commented like, I really love your initial rough because your anticipation had a punch to it. And when the AI just made it all flowing, you're looking at the flowing and thinking, I didn't go into this much depth. I just said, I really like your initial rough because your anticipation, I could feel the anticipation more. But I think a lot of beginners, they love to use the word fluid and flowing. Like when I do this beast thing, right, I immediately stopped it from being flowing by holding on this thing for longer, right? And then holding there and then holding here, right? If I would have just got rid of those holds, there would be no point to it. You'd just go through all the motions and he would not really convey the personality or the acting that I'm trying to make him convey. Same with this, right? If I just keep scrubbing this when it's in between, and it'll be like fluid, but it's got no real pause, broken rhythm to it, it won't be any good. And this is some error that I feel a lot of self-taught animators and beginner animators make, is they're just obsessed with, they think more frames means more money and better animation. No. In fact, the very stuff that they love, which they keep defending, the anime, one of the things that why even though it looks so good with such a low frame rate, is those guys really know how to space and time their drawings. And they're using such a low frame rate, right? Mute Midori Animations, how are you? Kenai, good to see you. Cameron Black is here as well. Okay, so now without further ado, let's jump into this. Now, as I said, I may not be able to use the Thriller soundtrack for this thing. I'll be able to use it on Insta Reels and Facebook Reels because you're allowed. But if I wanted to use it for my own personal promoting of AMB animation, I won't be able to use the Thriller music. So I'm not going to time everything to the Thriller music. So I'm just timing all this to the way I want to time it. And because it's all the Thriller moves, it'll kind of work with the Thriller music. It'll be off here and there, I don't care. But I'll be able to put it with a lot of other music. Travis the Insanimate, yes, he's online. The Doctor, we've got the Doctor online with us. Right, so let's talk about this animation then. Let's talk about what I want to do with it, right? So here we've got Gracie standing here, right? Now, for all purposes, let me change. Yeah, let me use a clear black fat. Yeah, right. So we can all see that, right? So I might want to hold this first drawing for half a second, right? So 1 to 13, right? But ultimately this is drawing 1, right? And I don't care about, I'm not working on a dope sheet, right, with all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And I would go 1 and I'd hold that all the way down there, and then I'd have 3 here, even though 3 is up here on the X sheet, right? Excuse me. So I don't care about writing that in my timing chart, right? I'm not timing to real world timing here. I'm timing to frames that I've drawn, and I will adjust them in the timeline. So 3 might be down here, you know. I might hold 3, 4, 3, and then have like 5 where, like, you know, 5 on like 12 or something, right? So it doesn't really matter. So don't get confused with that, right? Let's now talk what I want to do. So I'm going to hold this drawing, but I'm not going to talk about the hold at first, because that, as I said, that'll kind of distract you with the timing of the animation. This is vital information you're missing out on, but don't worry, this is not going off. Ultimately, I do clean my YouTube channel. I do clean the live streams away, and some of them get tucked away nicely in the training library. So, for example, the stream that I did of the Badger, if you want that now, you got to join the Real Animator Training Library. So you'll see here we've got a new archive. So the series that I did, how to animate a scene from start to finish, it's all here now, right? So all 14 live streams are now here, right, in this. So other live streams that just get old and messy and, you know, and don't really do very well on YouTube, I just get rid of them, right? So, but they stay up for a while. So don't worry. Yes, you are missing vital information. If you've just joined, I haven't really started, so you haven't really missed that much. You've missed some important kind of like setting the scene of what we're doing. Some people think I ramble too much, but if you think I ramble too much and you want to learn hand-drawn animation, good luck. Good luck, and I bless you and wish you all the best with your crap work, because you've got no patience, right? So you're not missing anything, right? So let's say that we have got 1. This is 1, right? Now, I've deliberately done this as a favor where her head moves and her body doesn't, right? So I don't want to do anything funny with the animation here, like an extra breakdown to go up before you go down, because it's a zombie robotic head turn where she's kind of like stiff and dead, right? I would have kept her body on the hold, but I just don't think I want to do that. It's too limiting style for me. So there's a subtle body turn which starts halfway, which we will have to keep an eye on, right? So I will say that there's a, so this is 1, 3, 135, 135. I don't want to call that 5. So I'm working out the timing in my head, right? I want to be here like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Okay, so let's say that if I play that this is 13, right? 1 to 13. Now listen, I'm not drawing anything fancy. We're not watching me draw any beautiful Gracie Goodbear with her curves and all this and that. We're just learning some real stuff. So if you really want to get better, fucking pay attention, right? Because I'm telling you, not many people talk about this, and which is why so many self-taught animators are where they are. You could be so much better just like that if you only grasp this information. So pay attention, right? 1 to 13. What is that? What's 1 plus 13? What's 13 take away 1? 12, right? So what is 12? 12 is half of a second, right? If we're working at 24 frames a second, which we will always do so, all right? It makes no sense to go any higher. Look at Glen Keane's duet at 60 frames per second. Doesn't really add much to it, right? Waste of your drawing time. Doesn't really, not worth it. Look at Milt Kahl's animation on 24 frames per second. Doesn't get much better than that. If you're a modern James Baxter fanboy, you love his stuff, look at his stuff on 24 frames per second, right? Doesn't, don't need to go any higher, right? So, basically you got 1, and I'm thinking to get here around about 13, right? I'm thinking to take half a second to do that. So this, I'm going to draw one line here, and I'm going to say 1 to 13. But I may not want that to be 13. Because I'm going to think about what's the story, what's the journey? What's the journey? I'm really taking my time to explain this. Like the Journey, they were a great band. Wheel in the sky keeps on turning, right? What's the journey to get from 1 to 13, right? How am I going to do that? I'm going to say, well, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. Right? Now, some of you might know what a half is. Some of you might know what a third is. Right? And we're going to take that journey. Right? Now, some of this information I'm going to be talking a little bit like halves and thirds and not really going too much into that. But you'll kind of get it as I keep talking about it over and over. Because a lot of you are Real Animator Training Library people. You already know what that is. And a lot of you are my regulars who follow me on YouTube. And you've already been following me so long, you know what that is by now. Right? So, when I look at this drawing that I made here, I did that called a favor, right? So that's like really close. So I did a favor breakdown called 3, right? And then 3 I made like another key, really, because I kind of just did this on the fly. And then I got 2 frames in between here, right? And these 2 frames are on thirds, right? So from this favor, I'm going to redivide this chart, right? Normally, I don't really talk much about favors in the training library. We do, but we don't talk like, I normally say never rechart a chart. You either have a half chart or you either have a third chart, right? Don't start saying this is a half and I'm going to go thirds between here and I'm going to go half between here. Because really, you're kind of setting yourself up to fail. You'll get lost. It seems to make sense, right? It seems to make sense doing that. But you'll start to have all these different it's better to like have different charts for different body parts and keep things as simple as possible, right? So, why am I doing that here, right? Because the favor is so close to that one that it's like a special frame with no in-betweens that I don't really need to worry about. So I'm going to rechart this chart in this instance, right? And it's better to do it when you're slowing out rather than slowing in with a favor, right? Normally when I put a favor at the... Why did I do that? Normally when I put a favor at the end, it's because I think it needs one extra kind of thing, or I'm doing just a big jump. Right. So here I've kind of like got 1, 2, 3 in-betweens here, right? So this is kind of on thirds between here, right? So I've now got thirds, right? Hair to hair to hair, right? So this is 1/3 of the, like if we look at this head here, right? And we want to get to hair, but from hair, this is 1/3 of the way. This is another third of the way, and this is the final, right? So basically, this is drawing 3, right? I'm gonna call this another key just because it's a favor and I'm recharting, right? So I'm gonna start my chart from hair instead of hair, right? I'm just gonna say 1, 3, right? Okay. So I figured out that part of the journey. 1 is there. I'm not gonna rechart my chart anymore because I'm just gonna keep it clean. 1, 3, right? So we're on 3 here, right? 3. And now I know that I've got 1, 2 frames and hair, so we've got thirds, right? Now, I don't want to just jump into that, right? I'm going to have a half slow in here. I'm going to have 5. I'm going to start with a slower movement, and this is going to be 7, right? So this drawing is going to be 7, right? We do this in the Real Animator Training Library a lot. We time, and I show you how to time a lot. Especially if you're interested, do that bouncing ball lecture, the free one, and the pendulum one. Right? 5, 7, right? So this is 7, right? Now we've got to do this. We're going to jump. No in between. No in between hair and hair. That's enough of a movement on 2s. Notice I'm jumping on 2s. I'm not working on 1s. 2s means each drawing will be held for 2 frames, right? If it was 1, each drawing is just 1 frame and that's it. So when you're editing thing, your duration, the duration of your frame is 2, right? And that's how we do the pose test. Sometimes the duration will be 4 or 6, depending on how long you're holding it, right? So notice I'm working on that. 1, because I want to save time. And I don't want to I want to rush through this animation. And 2, it's a slow, boring movement. We don't need to put that much work into it. It won't make that much difference, right? So I'm going to call this 9, right? So this is drawing 9. 1, 3, 5. There's no 5. We need to in between, right? We need to. So this is going to be held for 4 frames. 3 plus 4 is 7, right? So when we do our pose test in Premiere or Resolve or whatever, Toon Boom or TV Paint, if you've got it, we're going to have to hold this drawing for 4 frames, right? Because we haven't drawn drawing 5 yet, right? Do you understand? So that's how we're going to line test it. That's how we're going to pencil test it. 7, 9. Now 9 to 13. So I'm going to have a look at this. 9, 11. I don't want 1 in between hair and hair. I want it to slow in more, right? I don't feel that 1 in between is enough, right? So I'm going to extend it. I'm going to say 13, right? Maybe even 1 more. 15, 17. It's the opening. We can take as long as we like, especially if I'm the director and I'm like, if I was timing it to the original Thriller music, maybe not. But as I said, I'm not going to be able to use that music for my own promotional work, so I don't really care, right? I'm doing this for you, Lady Tigry Comics. I know that you are Kristen, so I'm doing this for you, right? And if you really studied the basics and archive and the intermediate archive, Kristen, which I know you're a member of, you will remember that I'm just basically going through all of that again in a roundabout way. But Perhaps there I didn't talk so much about the pose test, which we do a little bit later, because if we start talking about pose tests early on, then you're going to lose this information. So that's why Real Animator Training Library, Diary, is more interested in that, right? So because this is where it really, this is what it's all about. So 17. So this 13 now becomes 17, right? So 1, 3, 7, 9. So if I was doing my pose test, Lady Tigry, how long would I hold this drawing for? How long the duration in the timeline would this be? It would be 8. So this would be held for 8 frames, because that's an 8 frame slow in, right? It's going to take 8. So contrary to what a lot of beginners think with their fast moving Sakuga anime, see how there's less in-betweens on these, when there's more movement, right? That putting more in-betweens when there's like movement will cause it to be overly fluid in the wrong places. Where you want more frames is you want to add weight, and weight means slower, right? It could be faster, but that's less frames, right? If you've got no weight, it's quicker, right? But when you want to slow down, you need more drawings or more frames. So just between this tiny little movement here is gotta have eight drawings if I was on ones, or 4 drawings if I'm on twos, right? So when I say 8 drawings, it includes these 2 drawings here, right? That's already 2 of the drawings done. So really, it's going to be another two in-betweens in there, right? So now we're there. We then cut, right? So the animation now, when I scrub it, you still won't. So this is like back in the day when we used to hold stacks of paper and go. This isn't a pose test, right? As I mentioned before, this is what I call scrubbing. This is like flipping, right? The pose test is when you time it out in the timeline and press play, and it all plays back according to this, right? And these are your frame durations, right? The math between the two, right? So if we scrub there, we now cut. So she looks and we cut, right? Now I'm gonna have her blink to 7, right? So her eyes are already half closed. So 5, if I was sending this abroad, I would write 5 blink, right? Or I would give that to my assistant and say make 5 a blink, right? Just close her eyes and open it, right? Actually, scratch that. I wouldn't do that because she's in zombie mode. I do want her to blink, because I don't want to make it exactly like the Michael Jackson thing. Otherwise, as I said, AI will give a uncanny perfect rendition, which will just look too perfect and too dodgy, like they're rotoscoping the real thing with a filter. But the plus of being a hand-drawn animator is not only can I have the rough around the edges more hand-drawn look, more authentic, I can come in here and say I'm going to change things, just like here where she goes up into her eyes, into her skull, rather than slap bang in the middle there, which is what the Jackson original does, right? So we're going to take artistic license. And one of the things about Gracie Goodbear is she's a flirtatious pin-up. So I'm going to have her flutter her eyes, but just blink, not really flutter. So at the end, between 9 and 17, I think I will have 13, 15 is where I will put the blink. So just before we cut, that'll make a good edit point, right? Just before we cut into the close-up, we're going to blink, have the blink, right? Not hair though, right? We're going to have her looking straight at us, right? So now here, if I was following the music video, I'd be listening to the beat of the timing, breaking the music down and animating to that. But thankfully, I don't have to do that. So the copyright law makes it easier on me. I don't have to restrain myself to that timing. But I'll have to keep it in mind, right? Because I'm still going to be able to use that music when I post it on social media. So it'll kind of match, but not really, you know. So here, we're now going to do this kind of like, she's going to transform into evil zombie. She already is, but she's going to transform into her maniac face, right? So she's going to do that, right? So I made that like we've switched her on, like with her eyes. So I've already put in the keys and the breakdowns and everything here, right? So that's the first stage. Then she's going to start doing her zombie walk towards us, right? So we've got to figure out how to time this. So, I am actually I've got the Jackson thing open on another screen, and I'm gonna watch it just to get a timing of the walk. Okay, it's about 1 second per step. 1 second per step. So we can do that, right? It's about 1 second per step. So that's a lot of time, right? We're talking like, that's going to be 24 frames. That's going to be 24 frames. So do you understand, Kristen, how I'm kind of doing all this in my head, understanding the time in my head, and then translating which frames I want to hold longer on or less on in the animation. And that's quite easy. I'll show you how, right? First, we got to do this fun switching on movement, which is all my thing, right? So we're going to go down. We may need to draw a breakdown for this one. So I want this whole action to take 1 second, right? So if this is, now this is a new scene, that's 1 to 17, so I'm going to start from 1 again, right? So this is 1, right? And this, I'm aiming for this to be 25, right? I'm aiming for this to be 25. So we've already got 1.5 seconds worth of animation, right? How do I know that? With just these few drawings, because that's 1. That's, no, the more than 1.5. This was no longer 13, 17, right? We've got over 1.5, but that's 17 frames, and this is 25 frames, right? 24 frames, right? 1. If you start on 0, then it'll be, but I never have this as 0. So I've got to figure this out. So this, I'm gonna really focus on this. This is where I'm gonna take about, like, the easy thing would be is like half a second just to do this. So around about 13 frames here. And then the other half is here, right? Like that. So more drawings on this and less drawings here, right? Because I want to slow into this, right? Like she's charging up, right? So I'm gonna have a half chart because it's simple, right? I'm gonna have 1, 3, 5. 5 will be the breakdown between here and here, right? If you don't have, then I'm gonna have 7, 9, 11, 13, right? Super easy stuff. 7, 9, 11, 13, right? So this is 13. Down into that, right? So that's how I figured that out. So I will hold this drawing for 12 frames. Now I'll have to figure this out in the post test. In the post test, right? Yes, don't do it in reverse, Lady Tigri. Go back to the basics, and I know you want to do your own stuff. This is one of the biggest hurdles for people, beginners, like especially people who've invested in my training library. You've got the best intentions, but you've got to really follow the exercises and understand them. Because essentially I'm doing what I do in multiple training library videos here. for the flour sack, the walk cycle, the bouncing ball, the swinging pendulum, the 4-step walk cycle, the dog cycle, all the various trot, run, gallops, the dialogue test. We do all of this stuff. And by watching it and following it, you're training your brain and your subconscious to think like this, right? Don't be too eager to jump in and make your own stuff and then think that that's different to what you've done in the training library. You've trained for a reason to use that stuff, right? It's almost like people who learn martial arts, they're learning all that stuff, and then when a real world incident occurs, they freeze and they get beaten up. Not their fault. It's because of lack of experience. When you do something different for the first time, even though you've loaded with lots of information, there's a lack of experience. So you got to go back and analyze. What am I doing wrong here? What have I forgotten? What am I missing? I did the training library exercises and they were great and I understood that. Now I'm doing my own thing. What am I missing? Why am I doing it like this? I should be timing it with a chart. I never use charts anymore myself. If I'm just doing this for myself, I use instinct because I don't have an assistant. If I crowdfund and get Gracie Goodbear, do you want to see her dance the Thriller full, and people give me, I don't know, a couple of $1,000 for that, then I'll pay somebody and I'll draw a chart. But if I'm doing it myself, I don't need to do all that because it's all instinct. I'm drawing this chart just purely for this live stream to explain to you how this all works. So now we're going to look at 13 to this, right? We're going to come up quite quick, but I want to really slow into the stop pose like it's sounding like that, right? Almost like, it would be funny if she was like electric shock, but that's too much of a deviation from the video. So I'm going to treat this like another key, right? So 13, I've got to instinct this. Quarter of a second or half a second, or I said this is 25, right? Now mind you, like, I'm taking artistic license with this. I'm saying this is 25, but if I want to make it 36, I'll make it 36 because I've got nothing. I'm not following the real music. But if I was following the real music, I would have to be more careful, right, with the amount of frames that I'm using. I'd be like an anime person. I'd be having to use a lot more favors. I'd be having to slow in and slow out less, right? So I'm giving the impression that you can just sit here and go, this will be this and that'll be that. But if you're working to a dialogue or to a soundtrack or to a specific scene length, and you're not making it all up as you go along, like me here right now, that's one of the pluses of being an indie filmmaker. You basically need to be a little bit mindful. So let me try and work within those parameters. So 25 is here. So 13, 15, 17, 19. Let's say that this is, let's say 13. Let's come out of it on thirds. 15, 17, 19. Right. That could be the slow in point. So I'm not really going to make the so what I would do if I really wanted to hit that at 25 is I would not have that at 13. I would maybe have that at 9, right? But I don't really want to change that, but I'm just telling you, like, because I want to slow into this pose, right? So the slow into this pose is important. So if I'm hitting this, if I'm hitting 15, 17, 15, 17, 19, if this is 19, 19 to 6 frames slow in isn't good enough for me. So I will shave some frames off here if I was really caring about the timing, right? I know I'm kind of explaining this fast and it's probably not getting through to some of you who are less experienced, but just pause the video, This isn't real animator training. This is a free lecture, but still, what I'm saying is extremely valuable here. Pause the video and really think about what I'm saying, right? If I was working to timing and this had to be frame 25, and this was like 17, and this was 19, right? And that's a 6 frame slow in, and I'd say, no, I want that slow in to be longer. I would come back to here and I would change this timing, and I would have this on maybe 9 to give me 2 extra frames to do the slow in elsewhere. But I'm gonna stick with my own timing because I'm gonna stick with me being able to do what I want, right? So 15, 17, 19, we hit that on thirds, right? I don't really want to hit that on thirds though, right? Because I don't want to stay close to that. I'm going to keep that at 19, but I'm going to have 15 on a half, and I'm going to slow in so I can see this pose for more, right? Right? So 15, 17, 19. So I'm changing this now, right? Because I said I'm not going to change. I'm going to be more flexible. I want to stay on this, right? Actually, I'm going to use ones. Right? So let me start doing something a bit more cartoony here, right? Let me have a half chart. Let me have 14. This is why you never work on 12 FPS, right? You want the flexibility to use ones, and that jolt will really help it, right? 15, right? 14, 15. 15 will be the breakdown, which is halfway between here and here, which I haven't drawn, right? 15, right? Now I'm going to slow in, right? $16 on another half, 17, 19, right? So this now becomes frame 19, right? So I've got a lot of drawings there because I really want to hit that. If I really didn't want to, if I wanted to save time, I'd just go halfway between there, and that'll be 19, right? Like 17, 19, like rather than having 16, I'll just have one in between, call it 17, right? So that's 19, right? So 21. So what I want to do is I'm going to have a favor here called 21 because I really want to stay on this drawing, right? So I'm going to have a favor here called 21. That'll be my breakdown, right? Then I will have this is a key because it goes down, right? Her head bounces up and down, right? So then I will have from 21, that 19 is putting me off. Then I'll go half, 23, right? From there, and then I'll go like a bouncing ball. I'll go 25, right? If it needs another frame, I can throw in 24 here to keep it, to stop it from being a bit choppy, right? So this will become 25, right? So then I'm gonna have, she comes up again, 27, 29 with the blink, right? So 29, so 27, 29, right? Now from 29, so I'm gonna have 31, 33, 35, 37. Why did I say 37? Right? Because 37 turns it into 1.5 seconds, right? Because like 36 frames, 12 times 3, 12 is half a second. 24, another 12 times 3 is 36. That's 1.5 seconds, right? So we're now 1.5 seconds. So instead of being 1 second, right, which was my original plan, I've decided to make it 1.5 seconds. So here, there's a lot of in-betweening that needs to be done. A breakdown needs to be done, right? We don't have drawing 5, which is halfway between here and here. We don't have drawing 21. We don't have drawing 27, okay, which is another breakdown. We don't have drawing 31, which is another breakdown. So what I'm going to do right now is very quickly, I'm going to draw in those breakdowns. Let's see what's going on in the chat. AMB, I've been looking more into old 2D lately, and now I understand what you mean when you say real animation. That those old classic style new, yeah, they were absolutely. That is real animation. They dance with shapes. There's surgeons of each line. No software. I like this. Moves anything. No particle. Physics simulations, all custom, step ahead of time. High level illustrations, they make illustrations move, come alive. Absolutely. 100%. I'm glad I've pointed you towards the light in that regard. Thank you so much for the explanation for working around the timing issue. I'm working with an original score, so my timing is limited to my own boards and matching. Exactly. So take on board what I'm saying. Use the spacing and make your framework fit and switch between 1s and 2s. I also understand now the labor of 2D is really not just the amount of drawings, it's actually the necessary skills of the artist. This is what I'm trying to say. Like a lot of people, a lot of enthusiastic beginners come at me with attitude, like, because sometimes the things I say make them uncomfortable, and they're like, oh yeah, if you can draw, you can do anything. No, you can't. Even if you can draw for animation, if you don't understand this whole timing thing I'm talking about, like you start with timing and you end with timing, right? You don't really understand this, then your drawings are for naught. Do you have a rule of thumb you recommend for when you recognize you need to add another frame in between? On 1s and well, 1s is when I know, right, okay, I'm going to talk about that between here and here, right? I'll talk about that. So here's a safe thing, right? I know this is a safe movement, right? It's all on 2s, and I want to slow into this. I want to slow into this pose, so I'm slowing in heavy on 2s, right? Now here, I really want the viewer to see this pose, but if you think about it, we're going in and out of that pose from 13 to 25 in half a second. We've already missed that pose. So how am I going to see that pose? How am I going to see this pose, right? Let's talk about that. But first, let's jump into we want dark pencil, don't we? Yeah. Let's jump into doing drawing 15, so you kind of get a real world example of where I think I need an in-between for the pose test. Because if I took it to the pose test, it'll just be like an animatic, right? It'll need something in between. So I'm going to put drawing 5 in, right? And drawing 5 is just simply halfway between these two, right? Now for the pose test, I'm not going to hang around, right? I'm not going to draw the pretty Gracie, right? I'm just going to kind of do what we call shorthand, so because it'll all go in a blink of an eye when we film it, right? And I need to know that it's working. So I'm just doing the outline rough in between. So you might read the credit rough in-betweeners, right? Rough in-betweeners are doing what I do here right now, right? They're not necessarily... When 2D animation had a bit more money, right? And the workflow, you know, you had rough in-betweeners, right? So now, here's something that we're going to do a little bit different. So if we look here, we look at her shoulders have come up, right? So as I look at that and I see the shoulders coming up, I don't want to put that on a half and have a linear kind of like head going down and shoulders coming up. Schoolboy halves, right? So I'm going to have a different chart for the shoulders. The shoulder chart is going to be, let's have it this way, right? I want to have the head kind of, shoulders come up and the head bury into the shoulders, right? So I'm going to have that more 2/3 of the way, right? So we're going to go like this. So 5 is going to be 2/3 of the way away from 1, right? And 13 is there, right? And then we're just going to super slow in to that. So I'm going to have this 2/3 of the way there like that, right? And this is the subtleties of the various speeds that's going to cause that, right? So if I come up here, let me just throw that in. 2/3 of the way. If you're liking this information, by the way, feel free to go over to my website and donate to AMB Animation. Remember that if you believe in hand-drawn animation and 2D animation and you don't like AI, then if it's not me, make sure it's somebody else. Support hand-drawn animators. Go and help them create the content that they need to be creating. Otherwise, you're going to see less and less of it. And there's going to be more and more AI. So truly, if you really like what I'm doing, or if you feel that I've really shared some information with you that you can use, then thank me for it by either subscribing to my channel, sharing my channel with people, or heading over to my link in the description and giving me a donation, which will be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Or of course, if you're serious, help yourself and me by joining the Real Animator Training Library. Right, so this head is going to be on half. Now I'm just going to very roughly put in like little shapes representing the things that they need to represent. I'm not going to draw them in. I'm not going to draw in her strands of hair either, right? Just enough to create a little illusion of something going on, right? Because we need to get back to timing, right? Right, so that's it, right? That's enough of that, right? So that is drawing 5, right? So we've got the shoulders 2/3 away from 1, but we got the head 1/2 away from 1, like that, right? So that's all I would do, Lady Tigry Comics. How necessary are dope sheets? Dope sheets are used by the cameraman for putting it all together, right? Dope sheets are used. So basically, a dope sheet is the English word for X sheet, exposure sheet, right? So exposure sheet is a piece of paper back in the day, or it's like, and you will have your various levels, just like Photoshop, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, right? And then you'd have your action, could be your dialogue as well, right? And then you'd have your frame count, right? So you'd be going all along there like that, right? Like that, right? And then your frame count will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Imagine a Premiere timeline, Grayson, or a DaVinci Resolve or Toon Boom TV Paint timeline on paper. That's all it is, right? In a way for the cameraman to understand, like, so let's say that she bobs her head. So if I'm going to put this on a dope sheet, on frame 1 I will have 1 hair, but then on frame 5 I will have drawing 5. Now this adds up, but let's say that if I was going to hold frame 1 for 2 frames, or I was going to hold frame 1 for 6 frames, I would do that. And let's say that I wanted to have then 3 here, 5, 7, 9. You see how it doesn't correspond to the frame count now, because I've added that hold there, right? So this is what you would send. So animation directors on TV shows don't really direct like you think, like film directors, right? I've been an animation director on a TV show, many TV shows. And what I do is we do something called, they call it timing directors. Some studios call them timing directors, to not confuse over the overall show director. They call it slugging or timing direction, right? So basically, you then send this off to Japan or Korea or Indonesia, and you don't have so many in-betweens drawn. You just send the basic 1 to however many, and then you sometimes write in the action blink, right, over there, over that hold, right? So I'm holding it for that long, throw in a blink. If you want to be specific which frames you want to throw in the blink. But you don't draw it, you don't do what any... That's how shows like Batman, the animated series, were made. Animaniacs, all that, sent off to other countries. Just the poses were drawn in the US, and then they were slugged and timed and sent off with the layouts, and they hoped for the best. So that's why, if you look, there's a great animator on Instagram called John Pomeroy. Used to do all of Don Bluth's best stuff. Hard times fell upon hand-drawn animation, and he was reduced to drawing and animating on things like Tom and Jerry movies. And when you look at his roughs, they're amazing. But when you look at the finished thing, he himself in the post says, I wasn't responsible for this, right? It just came back from the studio like that. So some timing director got his poses, which weren't in between, weren't broke down, and did this to them, right? And then it comes back, and why doesn't it look like John Pomeroy's work? Because John Pomeroy just drew the layout poses and timed it and sent it to somebody else to use their skills to kind of fill in the gaps. That's what I mean by why people don't understand what real animation is. Real animation is not the simple, like, easy stuff. When the real hardcore Disney, true Disney classical 9 old men, even the Renaissance men, they would do it all, right? The assistants would clean it up and do the close in-betweens, but they would not really manage the animation, right? Whereas basically on TV animation in the 90s and all that, it's glorified in-betweening, right? They're in-betweening layout poses that have been timed on a dope sheet, right? So that's hopefully, I don't want to go too off topic, Grayson, but hopefully that kind of sheds some light on it for you in that regard, right? So here we've got drawing 5. So now we've got drawing 13, right? Right, so we've got that. So now I want to do drawing 15. 15 is half of the way up between here and here, right? So let's do that. Now, this drawing 15, I have to think about my arc. I don't want her just arcing like that, right? I maybe want her to arc out. And by bringing it out, arcing it up out here, I'm kind of like gonna make more out of the pose, right? If I just went straight up here, you're not bigging up the pose enough, right? So again, this is where I'm talking about arcing, timing. That's why those three things we learn in the basics archive of the training library, arcing, timing in and slowing out, they are the fundamental laws, right? So this head is going to be on a half, and it's got a lot of squash and stretch to it. Now I'm more thinking about her facial features than the rest of it, right? I'm already going to have her eyeballs up on this thing, because I really want this kind of like this to kind of register, right? I'm going to bring her evil eyebrows right up, right? Turn her mouth over that way. Let's see. Yeah, by having a big arc like that, we make more out of that move, right? And while the head is on the half, some of these facial features are not, right? But I won't go ahead and time those facial features on different timing charts because it just overcomplicates things. This drawing I would not expect an assistant to do, right? I would have to do this drawing myself, right? And really, really lock it down. Otherwise, the whole appeal of this acting will be lost, and it'll be like that example I gave with John Pomeroy's work, going to Tom and Jerry, going off to another country, and they're completely missing opportunities to really get gold out of his poses, right? Because they just don't know, right? It's not that I'm being mean. Like, to do this kind of animation, people just don't know. It isn't simple. Right now, I'm gonna really kind of put a delay on her hair, like this. So I've literally like got to think about the follow through and everything in this, right? But I'm gonna be rough with it because all of this stuff. Today's live stream is not really about drawing and showing. Look at the great animation. It's more about making sure you understand timing, right? So I do need to think about these shoulders, though. I'm gonna put the shoulders on 2/3 of the way down now, right? So the shoulder chart is gonna be again, right? That again. So we're gonna go 13, 15, right? So we skip 1/3 and go to the other third to 15, right? Which is what we got here, right? So your shoulders are going to be like that. Collar is going to be 2/3 of the way down. Now I'm going to look at the hair. The hair is going to, right? The hair is designery. If we look at her hair, it's kind of a cheat, right? She's got this shape for her hair, right? But we kind of come out of it and do lots of strands, and then we go back into that shape. So we got to be careful about how we animate her hair, right? So as I look at this hairstyle, I'm going to come out of it slow on 1/3. So the hair chart, her hair chart is going to be 1/3, right? So he's got 13, 15, right? So this is the hair, this is the head, and this is the shoulders, right? So I normally I put more keys and breakdowns for my assistants because in my personal experience, I didn't work, when I worked as I worked for Disney Junior and Universal and 20th Century Fox, but that was more for storyboard. When I was an animator in the UK, I did work for Sony Pictures and all that, but that was when I was just starting out, and the majority of stuff I worked on in the UK was commercials and Spanish feature films like El Cid and German feature films like Chesterfield, which you probably never heard of. And the assistants did not really have the skill or the experience. They were just kind of like all-rounders. And I found that they didn't really get what I was trying to do. And I wasn't as experienced as I was now, so I would just do most of the drawings and say follow my roughs instead of the timing chart, and just have one overall timing chart. And I would say, if this is different, stick with my drawing. So that was my way around it then. I still would do things like that because I think, I do think that it can get confusing to have all those charts around there, right? So that hair is 1/3 of the way, right? So now that's gonna be like that. So if we look, we can now see how we just get a feel for it. I haven't done much drawing, right? I haven't wasted any time when I want to go onto the line test and see is it working. I haven't wasted any extra time with unnecessary drawing, right? That might not be used, right? So although I kind of know most of my animation, I just do like that because my experience, I kind of know, but you guys, it's different. Don't waste your time. Trial and error, build experience points, right? And there are going to be times when I have to build experience points too, right? So, so there we go. That's that. Now, if we look from 19, I've got 21, which is a favor. I really want to hold on that frame, right? Because I really want to have that kind of like high on that like she's getting high, right? She's kind of like freaked out, crazy, freaky in the eyes, just completely zombie-fied, like, but she's cute as well at the same time. So that's why I really want to kind of have it. If she just went from this to this, it'll be too creepy for her personality, right? So I got this kind of like crazy funny thing going on here, right? So this is a favor, right, between hair and hair. This is going to be really close. So here I'm gonna do my. It's not really an anime impression, like favors exist in Western Disney animation too, but when I've been slowing and breaking down animation, studying various different types, I find that anime people really depend on the favor to give them any kind of weight because their frame rate is so limited, and it gives them a nice staccato feel, right? So I'm kind of just like being, in fact, I'm going to turn off no next panel, right? Actually, I need the next panel to keep an idea of the arc, right? I'm gonna have it there, super close, right. Little bit of a turn. I'm thinking of the arc like that, not like that, right? Don't be lazy with your arcs, please, right? We're gonna keep that mouth open. I gotta be careful, like my imagination runs wild. I'm like, it's not really in her character though, like with her being a zombie with her mouth open, I was thinking of having some drool coming out, but then that would be like, I think with this character it'd be taken the wrong way. So let's just keep it simple, you know, don't get carried away. She's only pretending to be a zombie. She isn't a zombie, right? So we're gonna have I'm kind of drawing in this one a little bit more because it's important, because I want this expression to read, right? I may start having the eyeballs coming out of they're kind of buried in her skull. A moment, right? And that's why I, you know, part of the appeal of this is like bringing something that's not in the thriller video into it. Now what I want to do is watch the hair, right? I need this hair. This hair will not be a favor. This hair will be pure follow through, overlap and drag. So the hair will come up like this, right? Almost like a bird's wing, right? And I need to watch what's going on with hair. So this is again just a half, right? So the spacing I'm doing intuitively differently, right? So I'm not going to draw a chart, but I'm halving the hair and not doing the hair on a favor. because you can't favor the hair. The hair is a flowing movement, right? The hair's got its own speed that it's working on. This body I will keep on the favor because I really want to keep this pose with the extended neck, right? I think that'll do, right? That'll do, right? So this is 21. The hair has its own mind. The hair has got its own flow. Yeah, I guess it's got its own consciousness like everything. How necessary? Okay, we've got that. Thank you for the insight. It's sad how the industry can butcher or not utilize such great work. Well, I mean, to be honest, Grayson, it is, you know, the elephant in the room on this is money. You know, I'm so fortunate that I have my supporters and I have such a great training program that people sign up to it, and I'm able to continue to pump out this information and share these great insights on YouTube and create content like Gracie. But if I want to take Gracie further, I'll need money, right? I can't keep doing it, like I can't keep funding my own stuff with things that I've got to survive, I've got to live. So these projects, these films that are being made have only got a certain amount of money. And that's what real animation is all about. The hand-drawn animation people, like John Pomeroy, is expensive. For him to be working on a Tom and Jerry, they can't really afford, and then all of the animation needs to be sent out. So they're already pumping up their Tom and Jerry by having him just draw a few poses, because he's not anybody, right? There's very few people on this earth with his skills. Very few people on this earth with my skills. Very few people on this earth with Glenn Keane's skills or Eric Goldberg's skills, right? So, quite frankly, you're going to need capital to do that. So it's not that the industry's putting it to waste. It's all the budget that they got for that particular project, right? So here we can see now, we can really see how this thing is timing out, right? We're really registering that up pose, right? Which is great. Now, following that, we've got a half between there and a half between there. I'm not going to bother drawing those, right? And I'm not going to bother drawing those because those are easy and I've kind of seen what I need to see, right? I've seen what I need to see. I don't need the security of drawing all the in-betweens to feel, yes, it's working. I know it's working. So I've seen what I need to see, right? So now we're going to go into the walk, right? We're going to go back into timing. We're going to go back into timing the walk. So let's go on to AMB line brush. First, we have got Gibson Ribson has come online. Curious if anyone has read the Maurice Noble book on design for animation. It's about backgrounds and layouts. Not off topic. Backgrounds and layouts are to do with the great craft of hand-drawn animation. And that's a very good book. You've recommended there that I don't particularly know that book. So certainly not off topic. I will look for it. I've got the Hans Bacher one, Dreamworlds. So now we got to do, like, I remember it's going to take 1 second to walk here, right? This has got to be 25, right? So 37 to 47, 57, 60, 63, I think it is, 60, 65. We're talking about 60, around about 60. This is where my maths kind of goes out the window. 24 times, right, 37 plus 20 is 47 plus 4, 57, sorry, plus 4, is 61, 62. So we're going to have it on around about 63 frames, right? So from here to here, we want it to be around about 63, right? So we're going to go down. So this is where the most of the movement is going to take place, and then a quick shuffle forward and a stand, right? But I need to kind of really, possibly it's going to be a quick jerky movement. So I'm going to animate backwards from here, right? So 63 with a slow in is going to be like 53, and then I'm going to hold that for 4 frames, right? So 53, 50, 40. I'm going to have that to be like, let's just make it simple, right? I'm going to have that at 40. That's going to be like, I'm going to say 47, right? Because I want a nice long slow in between there and there, but I don't want it to unnaturally drift. I want to hold a little bit. So I'm going to bring it back even more and say 45, right? So I'm going to say 45, right? So it'll take it'll take 8 frames to do all this movement, right? And then we'll be pausing on that step because she kind of shuffles like that, right? That's going to be like the movement, right? So so if this is 37 to 45, right, I've got to think. So I'm going to do my initial planning, right, for 37 to 45, right? So 37, 30, and let's just say we're working on thirds between those two, right? Because let's just do that, right? So this is my initial planning. It's not necessarily going to be like that. 37, 39, 41. Okay, so actually, so then we got 39, 41, right? Yeah, that makes sense. So 37 to 41, 39, 41, yeah, 43, 45, yeah, 43, 45, that's it. And if it needs to be a little bit more fluid, I'll throw in a few ones on there, right? So this is going to be 41. This is going to be 43. Right. No, let's just have any one as the breakdown. It doesn't matter, right? It's all on thirds. It is literally all on thirds, right? And 45. Okay. And 45 will then become 55 It's too much of a hold, maybe. We don't want to pause it too much. 45, 55, 63. That's almost 8 frame hold. Yeah, okay. So we will just do this, right? We'll just keep halving that. 47, 49, 51, 53, right? 55, right? So this is going to be 55, right? And it's going to hold until, what was it, 63. So 55 plus 8 is 63, right? So if this movement here right, is a little too staccato, right, I have the option to go 42, 43, right, and switch it to ones, 44, 45, right. So I want her to jerk in place, right? So it'll look awkward, but it'll have a nice little bounce to it. Now that's one of those moments, Kristen, in the timing where I may be wrong, right? In my mind, I'm like, yeah, that'll, I know, I like to think I know. But if I put it in the line test, I might say, damn, that's too quick. We need to, so I've got all this time here, right, to redistribute those frames a little bit to make it work, right? But I'm not going to change it. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to go and take it to do my post test with, right? So that's how we plan and we test before we draw, right? So what I am going to do though, because when I scrub, we can't really see that, I am going to put in one in between hair, one rough in between hair, because the post test will be, you won't really tell. So I'm going to let's see, we want dark pencil. So this is all half, right? That's not really coming out, so yeah, now you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to very quickly scribble in a half hair, right? Again, I'm not going to put in any details. It's just enough to feel the movement in the line test, right? So this hair is practically already where it needs to be. Right. And it's mainly in the eyes. Now I got to be careful, like she's in zombie eyes, right? But I'm gonna have to really look at the animation and see if I want to put a few blinks in. I don't want her to blink so much, right? But as I said, she's a zombie, but she's cosplaying, right? So she's acting the part, but I don't want her to be too perfect at it, right? That's interesting, right? Little bit of the hair indication there, not too much. That'll do, right? That'll do, right? That's good enough. That's what we call shorthand, right? So then this drawing will be 47, right? So it's there like that. Now, what you don't see when I scrub, you don't see this, you don't see the long hold from 29 to 37 as we slow into that, right? So it just comes out of it quick, but then she's going to go into this, and then she's going to go into this, one more hair like this. Now I want the timing to repeat itself, right? So I'm going to go and I'm going to look at that timing and I'm going to kind of repeat it. So am I still streaming? It's 10 p.m. out here. I've got to get some sleep. Hey, Frilled Mayfly, good to see you. Enjoying all of your knitting and all of that stuff. And your anatomy work. Keep working hard. Nice of you to stop on by. Frilled Mayfly. Very talented, very focused, very dedicated, creative person who I miss. I've always enjoyed her on my streams. Nice to have you. So I'm going to be repeating the timing. I'm going to be repeating this timing. So this was 37 to 41, right? No, 37 to 41, 39, no, to 45, okay? 37 to 45 is, my maths is terrible. 8 frames, right? So, we got to go from here to here in 8 frames, right? So 63 is the new number that we're dealing with. 63 plus 8 is 71, right? So this is going to be 71, right? So this is going to be 6. We're going to do thirds chart again, because that was thirds chart. And there's going to be 1 in between here. So 61, 63, 65, and 67, right? So I was wrong slightly there, right? Becomes 67. So this is 67, right? Told you my maths was bad, right? 63 plus 8 is 60. 63 plus 8 is not 66. I've got, you see? 60, I thought, how is that 8 frames, right? So, 65, 67, 69, 71. I was wondering what was that all about, right? Right, so it's the same timing. So this is 67. This is 69, right? Let's call 67 the breakdown. This is 71, right? So the slow in timing is going to be a repeat because we want the same timing, right? So we want 45 to 55, right? So we're going to have 71 to 81, right? 71 to 81, right? That's going to be 81, right? There, like that. So, and that was all a half chart. So it was like half 73, 75, 77, 79, 81, right? So then this becomes 81, and how long did we hold that for? We held it for 8 frames. So 81 plus 8 is 1 plus 8 is 9, right? That's how to work it out, but the 81 throws me. It's so bad at maths I am. 81 to 89, right? So that becomes 89, right? It's my field. You don't want my math either. I'm a pro at that. You know what they say, maths. When I got into being my own businessman and entrepreneur, that was one of the first times in my life I regretted rebelling against my parents and not doing good at maths. So there you go. But you see, that's how it works. So I promise you, when I'm on my own, my maths isn't that bad. But when I'm live streaming, there ain't no subconscious help. Like with animation, I'm just on autopilot, right? I don't need to even think. But with maths, it's a different story, right? So there we go. Now I'm going to do that 1/2 frame between there and there, right? So we're going to we're gonna do 73, right? Let's go to dark pencil. So this again is a very simple half frame, right? Like that. I'm actually enjoying the attention that Gracie Goodbear is getting on social media. It was nice to see one of my own characters getting as much love as when I animate somebody else's character, right? Most of the posts that do well on social are when I'm just doing somebody else's character, and that for me is always like, well, I don't think people are really appreciating the work or the animation, they're just fans of that character, right? But Gracie Goodbear got a whole load of love and a tiny bit of hate, and I'm thankful for the hate too, because the hate kept the post relevant. And I couldn't care less about the hate. It actually helped me create a new kind of way to serve my community and serve people, and possibly do more successful crowdfunders, so people are clear about my work, right? I'm thinking of branding the AMB animation as kind of, I'm calling it Gen X animation, because basically I'm a Gen Xer. If you want to define me as anything, I don't like to be put in a box, but I classified as a Gen X person. I grew up watching Gen X stuff, and I don't apologize for it. In fact, I'm proud of it, and I'm not against anybody else having their generation and enjoying their stuff. That's exactly the same as what I'm doing. But there are many Gen X people who feel ashamed or feel like guilt tripped. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but it says I'm disconnected. It says I'm disconnected, so it's good. Okay, it's good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so basically, like, I'm not one of these people that's gonna just be shouted down for drawing what I love and doing what I love and doing stuff which was deemed perfectly acceptable, and that kind of stuff made me the artist I am today, right? So the projects I make and the things I make are celebrating Gen X storytelling, Gen X design, Gen X stuff like that, and also a bit of Gen Z, because I'm a very late Gen Xer, right? I was born at the end of the period, shall we say? So so that's what excites me, and you know, with the Little Red, I kind of like messed up with the crowdfunder for that, but as I'm gonna be like crowdfunding this new stuff, I might try crowdfunding this thriller scene to take it further. Just a small test, nothing big, just to take it further. But I'm gonna find ways of letting people know, like, if you don't like this stuff, don't like it. It's not for you. Thank you for letting us all know how you hate it. Thank you for guilt tripping the people, trying to guilt trip the people who liked it. But it all brings attention to it. But this stuff is here to stay, and I'm here to stay, and this is what I'm making. Right, so we've got that little bit of timing there like that. So while it feels nice and bouncy when I'm scrubbing it, you're still not really feeling the timing because it's got to pause, like she's got to go don't like that. And but I know that it's enough for the pose test, right? So she's there, she looks, she turns into a zombie and starts walking towards us. Now the camera pulls away, right? So theoretically we're kind of like doing a jump cut, but in betweening it to make it like one. This is the whole Sakuga kind of animated camera move kind of thing. We're doing a camera move to pull out of that, but I want it to be quick. I don't want it to be too, I don't want it to like just go like that, but I don't want it to be a slow camera move because she's going to do this neck jerk thing, right? Which is going to take a second, right? So I want this pull out to maybe be no more than like 10 frames, just around about half a second or under, to get this camera pulling away, right? So I am going to say from 81, right? 89 we are. So 89 plus 10 is 99, right? So I'm going to say we're going to be 99 here, right? 99. That's a nice safe 10 frame coming out of that, right? So then we're going to have this is, if that's 89, so we're on 89, right? So we've got 2 coming out, which is on thirds, right? So I've kind of done that like it's thirds, right? As I've been breaking it down. So I'm going to chart that like a third chart, right? And so if I'm going to make that 99, right? So really, it's going to kind of like keep getting, it's going to start slowing down as she does this neck thing, right? This weird. I always thought Michael Jackson, I really respect and like Michael Jackson, by the way, so I'm not having a go. He's awesome. Like, he looks so cool, and that Smooth Criminal and Beat It are 2 of my favorite songs ever. And the Smooth Criminal music video is just one of the best music videos ever made, right? But I always thought the guy had like some kind of Tourette's syndrome, and he used it to his advantage, like all these weird like jumps and bursts and stuff. So it really worked in the Thriller thing. But it's all those kind of things that make the guy so original and so unique. I mean, it's like Bruce Lee. He had this weird chicken cat squawking thing, and yet pulled it off that people all over the world thought he was one of the hardest men that ever lived. So yet he made all those weird screams. And it's so different, it's so out there, that it draws attention to you. So great branding, great marketing. So we're going to do the 10 frame pull away. So 89 to 99. So it's going to slow out 91, 93, 95, 97. No. So here's what we're going to do. Yeah, we can get away with that. So we have 91, 93, 95. So we're going to have this and a half. We're going to have 91, 93, 95, 97. So this is going to be 95 and 97, right? And this is going to be 99. So this is 95, right? This is 97, right? And 93 is the one, the breakdown that I haven't done between those two, right? And this is 99, right? Elvis had his quirky moves, yeah, again, yeah. So I'm not really going to draw that rough in between because I don't think it needs it, right? I kind of know that that's going to work. So now we've got this kind of like twitch that happens. And that is going to take 1 second, right? So this I want to be very specific about, right? So we're kind of slowing the camera down, right? Then the next thing the next stuff that happens is going to be like a walk that goes on between here and here, which I'm going to probably have to work out off stream. So 99 plus 1 second plus 24 is Kristen, come on, tell me. 99, 109, 109, 109, 119, 100, and you see, it's so easy, but I'm so out of practice at it because I use calculators, or I say, hey Siri, and it just gives me the answer, and I'm out of practice. So 119 is 20. Shut up, Siri, I'm not talking to you. 119 is plus 4 is 123, right? I think, or 122, 123, right? So that's what it is, 123. And all I needed to do was go backwards, and I would have got it. See, I've learned enough about math to know that. But you see, this is what it's like for animation for some of you guys. You know, but you don't know, right? You still struggle, and then you get lost and frustrated, and it's all. And when you're live streaming, it's even worse. Right, so, but like for animation, I don't even need to think, right? You wanted it to be easy and use calculators. Get real, you're right. There should be an alternate version of me called the Real Mathematics Training Library. They're saying, you want to get real, you want to use your software, you want to use your software, the software is the toilet, I'm the same when it comes to math, but hey, I'm not passionate about math. If you're passionate about animation, then you need to, I'm joking about me, but you need to take on board what I say, because if it does that to me with math, it's doing that to you with animation, right? So 123, right? So we want this to be 123, right? But I want to hold on this pose for about 4 frames anyway, so probably I'm going to want it to be 119, which is kind of cool for me because we're working on 9s, right? 99 to 119, right? So I'm going to be about 20 frames now, right? So this is the anticipation, right? Now I've got to be careful because the camera is moving. I've got to make sure that it's constantly going to be constantly slowing in, right? We can't like have the camera doing like fast, slow, fast like that. Because it's all hand animated and the background will be not really anything moving, just a cloud or something, I can keep it on 2s if I want to and save time, right? So 99 to 119, let's work this out. 99 to 119, right? So let's just work on the premise of halves to keep things very even. We don't really want to do thirds, right? Although did I animate it like thirds? No, I animated it all pretty much on halves, because we're quite safe with that, right? Okay, so you see how I'm opting to use halves here because I want a linear movement, but I've got to be careful that I don't want to slow out too much, and I don't want to slow in. I can slow in, but I can't really slow out because we're coming from a move, right? And I can't really slow around here, right? So I've got to really think linearly, right? So let's say 90, 99, 101, 103, 105, right? So we got plenty here, right? So 99. So let's just double it up. So here I'm not even thinking like an animator at the moment. I'm thinking like linear, right? 99, 101, 103, 105, 107, 109, 111, 113. Okay. And this is 119. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to have that at 119 at the moment. I'm going to have it at 113. Actually, yeah, we'll slow back into that. That's fine. I can slow into that, right? So, if this is 99, this is 103, right? This is 107. And this is 111. So, and then what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to show you, because like there's this quick movement on her head, so I've got to change the timing. I'm doing the overall body timing at the moment, right? So this is 103. This is 105. No, not 105. What am I doing? This is 107. This is 111, right? Then we slow into this. So let's see, 111. We slow in 113, 115, 117, 119. Right? That's 119, and we can hold that, or we'll just keep that at 119, right? Okay, so that's the camera shift, right? Moving like that, all even, all linear, with a slow into this pose, right? With a slow into this pose. Now, we've slowed into this pose, but there's kind of weird stuff going on with her head here like this, right? I want to really jerk this head movement, right? So here, from here to here, so 103 to 117, I need to figure out the head timing, right? So for me, this head timing is not going to be like 105. 105 is going to be here like that, right? So the head, right? I'm going to call this the head. This is going to be, so this is 107. I want it to be 2/3 of the way, right? 105. Right? 2/3 of the way, right? And then 107 head coming back to 111, right? We're not going to have it on halves like that. We're not going to have it on halves like that. I'm faking cuts to reset it. It's getting that high. How do you have 3/4 angles your character's faces so well? I'll do that at the end. Hang on. Right up. Once we've finished all this timing, I'll show you some drawing, right? So 107 is not going to be like 109 like that, right? We're not going to do that. So we're going to have the head again. I'm going to favor the head 109, right? So we're going to come out of it. And then we're going to really feel that click in the head, right? So everything else is going to be kind of like half. What about the arm? The arm will be fine. It's mainly the head with the weird movement, right? So then everything else is like 111, 113, right, 119, right. So then 113 would be the midpoint for that, right? So I don't need to draw those because it's all just linear halves and there are not that many in-betweens there, right? So essentially, right, if we look, this whole live stream lecture has been talking about the timing aspect, right? Which is what we focused on. So I haven't done that many extra drawings, just a few. But what I would do is then I would take this and I would, if I wasn't so confident as I am, I'm not going to do it because I know it works, right? And if it doesn't, then I can fix it a little bit afterwards, but it pretty much works. But for most people, and even when you're working for a director, it's a good idea to do this. You don't do any more work from the stage. You don't start just drawing and in-betweening and animating. You take this and you put it in a pencil tester, or you export all these frames and you drag it into a video editor and you do the math. So you hold this frame for 37 to 41. So you hold that for 4 frames, right? And 41 to 43, I will hold that for 2 frames, right? 43 to 45, I'll hold that for 2 frames. 47. Okay, 47 to 55, I would hold that for 8 frames, right? I would hold that for 8 frames. So when I would play it back, I would get a pose test. Now I'm going to give you an example from my Real Animator Training Library in the Pro Archive, just so you know what I'm talking about. So it's a good thing to talk about the Real Animator Training Library. I'll talk about it right now. You learn all that stuff in the Real Animator Training Library. If you're interested in joining, go to ambanimation.com, click Join Now. You'll be taken to this page. You will have the option to either join our Master Animator Training Bundle, which will have pretty much every archive except for the anatomy, because it focuses only on the animation aspects and not the drawing aspect. Well, drawing for not the more kind of like an anatomical drawing. Or you will have the basic training bundle, which will give you the basics, the intermediate, and the professional lectures. But anyway, you can either get the bundle or you can buy one of these archives and study at your own pace. Presently, there are problems with the checkout, but the way we've been done it, I think somebody bought the basics from me the last live stream. You just, to buy this archive, please fill out the form and place archive name in the description. So basically you'll be taken to my contact form and you'll just tell me that you'd like to buy that archive, and I'll manually enroll you in there while the PayPal checkout thing kind of comes back, because the PayPal checkout with this website is off at the moment. But while that's it, that's the workaround for that. So it'll take about, if I'm online, it'll take you'll get it immediately. If I'm away from the office or I'm sleeping and we're time difference, then I say processing can take from 1 to 12 hours. So don't worry if you've applied to join. You'll hear back from me, and then we'll do it that way. So that's the way that works. So join the Real Animator Training Library. All of the stuff I've been talking to you about, the basics, intermediate, we all talk about timing animation. So if we go into the basics archive, you'll see that you learn about timing charts from the get-go. You can look in this ball lecture here, right? You can see I'm pretty much doing the same thing on the very first lesson in the training library. What are you seeing me doing? So Kristen, I know that you're a member of this. So we begin learning this way, right? We begin
arc and our path, our reaction is getting less.
So those of you in the library who understand this will understand exactly what I mean, in the inner circle rather. Also the library, because if you're going to be watching my basics course in the library, this will all make absolute sense to you. 53, 55. Yes, so we're hitting that on 55. Now we're going to come down with just one breakdown, 57, 59, and then this is all as is, 60.
So you can see...
Out. Okay, so I have charted my work, okay?
So you can see in the training library one, we don't have such big jumps. I'm charting on basically twos with very small, with very little gaps between each frame. So I'm really kind of babying you through it. And then it gets progressively harder as you work through the various exercises. So for example, when we go on to you do that with the pendulum swing, and then after the pendulum swing, you go on to the basic walk. So we don't start charting this walk until we've done the legs, the body, and the arms. So in the final video, we start talking about charts, right? So let me find the timing chart aspect. Where is it? Here.
You can take it down more afterwards, okay? Because you guys learning, you need to understand that this is a nice little move we've got here. But obviously, if we want things to work, when we start timing it and
trying to find it, yeah, they're the timing charts in the corner there.
Manage it, manage the arcs. So now we are moving from 13 to 15. So we are going to have 11, 13, 15, yes. So we're going to come down here into this one.
So there you can see.
I am going to knock this one out.
So I start making the drawing. So basically, I have shown you on today's live stream with a very advanced thing, what you've been learning basically from the very basics with simple shapes, moving from balls to pendulums, eventually a stick man. So that's kind of like what that's about. But if I take it a little bit further and you go into where this all leads into the professional archive. So if you look into the professional archive, we've got this massive lecture series where we advanced dialogue animation parts 1 to 5, right? So staging and thumbnails, drawing layouts, defining extreme frames. So here, timing the dialogue. So Grayson asked me about exposure sheets and dope sheets. In this lecture, we basically talk about timing the dialogue. So working not openly, we're making up the timing like what I did today, right? We literally start timing the dialogue. And then we start drawing our keyframes, but we have a pose test. So I think the pose test is somewhere in this particular animation. We see it, I think in this one we see it with the dialogue. It's going to be difficult to find which one it is where we do the pose test. Oh, here it is.
Action going on. You can do after you do your thumbnail. Drawings, right? These are my thumbnails, right? These are these drawings here. I didn't redraw them. I didn't try to reinterpret them. I got my lasso tool, all right? That's something you can do. Back in the day, you...
Convention of such an
Here
existence.
We are. This is the pose test.
Such an existence. He says it like such an existence. So when he says such, he's going to look up and then his eyes are going to circle from screen right to screen left as he thinks to himself. And he's going to, of course, lower the skull. Why? Because it's the law of opposing action, which is again just a side of the law of arcing combined with appeal, right? It's those two laws, we call it, it's a secondary law, the law of opposing action, right? It's not one of the 12 laws, it's a combination of the result of arc.
Just trying to, well, if I can't find it, it's
opposing action.
It's in there, but it's probably going to be too hard trawling through all there. You can see that, basically look at this scraggly drawing. That massive 30-second dialogue, maybe I've got it in my thing. That massive 30-second dialogue, right? It literally, I tested it like that with those scraggly drawings. Let's see. Groundhopper. Great one. Pose test. I found it. Oh, but this isn't the scraggly version. So you can see, like, this is how you time it out to see if it works.
I remember you well. Ben Aziz. I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence. Neither blade, nor tooth, nor your uncommitted claws could hold you to living. Speak then, my brother. Tell me, how does eternal contemplation torture a twisted soul?
Now, this whole lecture series talks about how, you got to start like that. Now, for some of you might be that, I don't really get it. I can't really see. But then that's how you have to keep kind of figuring things out, because then it starts to get more and more.
Ben Aziz. I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence.
Can you see it starts? We start
Neither
building.
blade, nor tooth, nor your uncommitted claws could hold you to living. Speak then, my brother. Tell me, how does eternal contemplation torture a twisted soul?
So can you see how rough the drawings are as we start building on it? Then we move on to this.
Ben Aziz. I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence. Neither blade, nor tooth, nor your uncommitted claws could hold you to living.
Right.
Speak then, my...
Then it moves on to this.
Ben Aziz. I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence. Neither blade, nor tooth, nor your uncommitted claws could hold you.
And to cut a long story short, turns into this.
Ben Aziz. I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Hang on, I want that.
Ben Aziz. I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence. Neither blade, nor tooth, nor your uncommitted claws could hold you to living. Speak then, my brother. Tell me, how does eternal contemplation torture a twisted soul?
And then eventually that becomes where is he? That becomes this. Is it chugging? It's not finding it. Vimeo.
Would suit not only the character.
There you go.
I remember you well. Your death now seems a convention of such an existence. Neither blade, nor tooth, nor your uncommitted claws could hold you to living. Speak then, my brother. Tell me, how does eternal contemplation torture a twisted soul?
If we really want to animate this and animate this well, the animator would be doing what I did now, all right? I already have all this, but somebody else would have done this.
All right, anyway. So that's the professional archive of the Real Animator Training Library, all right? It's priced at a professional level, so if you're a beginner and you see the price, you'll find that you can buy a couple of archives for the cost of that one, right? Because, quite frankly, if you got to be honest with yourself when you join this place. You know, if you want to get to that level, there are things you need to do first, right? There are basic fundamentals you need to do first. But, you know, I've had some people buy it. I don't know whether they're pros or not. It's all good. But my advice to you is unless you're focusing on the storyboard aspect and not the animation, hold back on that one until you've done the other stuff. But basically, anyway, AMB Animation, Real Animator Training Library, we've talked enough about it. Go, turn your life around, become the real deal. When you're tired of all my alternatives, as I said, all those who are seriously interested in hand-drawn animation are drawn to the Real Animator Training Library because it gives you the essential elements and necessary fundamentals that I probably can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure that most of my alternatives do not cover those things. They're basically dopamine fix for the casual viewer who like to watch people draw and animate stuff well. They play to your bad habits, which are I want to draw and animate my characters, which isn't really a bad thing, but it's a bad habit when you don't know how to draw and animate properly in the first place. This place basically forces you to do things that you've never done before, and eventually you'll end up watching in wonder as the work unfolding before you is at the command of your own hand, quite frankly. And then the realization will come that you finally, the transformation of you into the artist and the person that you've always dreamed of becoming has actually taken place. And it's not that that person was never there. It's basically you've been denying yourself these essential things through procrastination, through not being inspired or enthused to learning the necessary things. It's like a child wanting to do acrobatics without developing flexibility and strength. So quite frankly, that's what the Real Animator Training is about. So to those of you who are interested, fantastic. And to those of you who are exploring my alternatives, I will see you soon. Because if you're serious, that stuff is not gonna last. And however much you put off joining this place, you will join this place. All right, so thank you very much. That is the Real Animator Training Library. Now, we had an interesting comment earlier on. Todd Hurd. I know Todd Hurd. That name rings a bell. Yes, Todd Hurd. Fantastic. Very friendly gentleman on Facebook. Always giving me support on Facebook. Hey Todd, I saw some taekwondo animation of yours, or I should say it like taekwondo. Made me smile because I used to be a taekwondo instructor, and I enjoyed that one. Okay, so many people making their own animation these days without needing big companies to tie down and add limitations. Indie animation has spiked. Absolutely. That's what I've been waiting for with the Real Animator Training Library. We're in chaos at the moment, but when chaos becomes order, hand-drawn animation will be the order of the day, which is pretty much what I foresaw when I built my library. And I think these are very exciting times. I'm very, very kind of enthused and happy to be in these times at the moment. I don't think there are fearful times. They're fearful times for software-dependent automators, but not for real artists.
God can hear me. Indie animation is spiking, but question remains, is funding and paying their animators, most of them went with Amazon or Netflix. Yes, but you're looking at them. What's stopping you? You yourself are an indie animator. Remember that time in the chat where I asked you to tell me who the realist animator was, who the most realist of the real animator was? And you were all giving me other people's names. Some of you are very kind to put my name down. And I said, hang on. Whose universe is it? Who defines who's who? You. Zedpo, what's stopping you from being an indie animator? All of the yes, but no, but I don't have a following, but I don't have the skills yet, but I don't have... Listen, life is constantly unfolding, and some of these skills, some of these things you claim you don't have, you've got to acquire, and you've got to acquire them through the process of doing. And through the process of doing, it's through the process of becoming. And when you have the process of becoming is the process of defining, and it's constantly changing. So to say that you are already that, when you're there, you will have different mentality altogether. You still won't believe that you're there, right? So start now. Start being the change you want to see. Mats, there we go. If you're not a big YouTuber, you're not going to see much of a payoff. You see, you're getting such a denial, like you're not a big YouTuber. What's stopping you from not being a big YouTuber, if that's your goal, right? By the way, plenty of people with far less subscribers than me in very different fields are running their own business through their small community who they're serving, and are managing to support themselves, right? They may not be making millions, but they're making, you know, around about 30, 40,000 a year, and they're happy, right? Just think about that, right? Just think about that, and think about your assumptions. Your assumptions are, you know, where your world, really. You live your world based on your assumptions. You know, there's this thing where they say assume the state of the wish fulfilled, right? Through your own wonderful human imagination. Some of you have maybe heard all that, right? Well, partly true in my opinion. I wonder how they count on later frames and bigger... How do you half or three-quarter the angles of your characters' faces so well? Cubism, Picasso, design. Okay, that's the comment I was looking for, Daydream Dragon. Let's talk about our friend Gracie Goodbear here, right? Let's talk about her half and three-quarter, right? So, first things first is the construction of the head, right? So if we're looking at a front view, the main thing is she's got one eye width apart, and the nose exists in here. And then this kind of joins on the bottom, and she can have a bottom lip, right? Then the eyes sit on top, right? Then the ears are at the side, right? Now I know you talked about the hair, but like, this is what I talk about, like beginners need to understand beginning things first, right? So now, this is the shape, right? This is the shape we need to, so we're going to do the same thing, right? But we're going to move the center line, right? Going to move the center line here. Now, we're going to talk about contouring, right? But before we talk about contouring, let's just put the eye line in, right? And the little muzzle is going to be to the side. Now, if the muzzle's to the side, we've got to imagine a center line on the muzzle, right? So the nose is going to be there, right? So the mouth is going to be there. We're going to have a little bit of the mouth on this side. So we're going to focus on this, right? But we're going to think about the angling, right? We're going to still keep this, and this is the cheat. This is the whole cartoon cheat. But we're going to add a bit of volume to the side of the head, right? So we're going to add a contour to the side of the head like that, right? And the eye is going to be one width apart like that, right? Now,
The side is pretty much the same thing, right? But we're going to have the eye line, and we're going to have the muzzle obviously to the side, right? We're going to have that, right? We're going to have the lip there like this. Now we got to think about this thing, which is the cheat again, right? But when we're going to make like the contour of the side of the head is going to be like all like more space like this, right? And we got to think about the occipital part of the head coming back here, right? Forgot about the ear, right? The ear is going to be coming in, right? So the shape, right? These shapes are just moving, right? The eye shape is moving, right? Like that. So, similarly, when we want to talk about the hairstyle, she has a side parting like this, right? So that side parting will be in line with that eye, in line with that eye, right? Then here we won't even see that, right? It'll be like that, something like that. So now we do one shape here like this, and we do the other shape here like this, right? So we do one shape here like this, and we think about the other shape, right? I'll keep doing this to kind of show you like that, right? Then here we just do one shape like this. Can you see how the secret science of shape simplification is moving this, right? Now, this is why cutout animators and rig animators think it's just a matter of sliding shapes, because in theory, yes. But we as animators and artists know how to draw and add like nuances to these shapes to make them more interesting, and we cheat and change them, right? So now we're going to add other things, right? I'm going to add like something here like this, and then I'm going to add something here like this, and I'm going to maybe put in a shape there like that, and maybe put in a little bit of that shape there like that. Maybe I'll introduce it, right? See the CG, well, you would see that, right? The CG, you would see that. It's not bad. Maybe I put it there, right? It's not bad. I like it, right? Then here it would be all that, right? Think about coming off the side of the head like that, right? Right? Now we start putting other things in, right? Put one here, right? Put one here, right? Put this at the side, have it come over here like this, right? Maybe show a bit of the other one, actually. Give her a bit of, see, that's where I would cheat that. I would curl that out like that. Then you'd have another one on this side. So this is what we talk about. So when I'm animating this thing, I've got to the level where I can just instinctively do it without effort, right? But when you're animating these things, each one of these is a separate like bouncing ball or swinging pendulum or mass that you have to understand its shape, you know. So I've kind of scribbled and roughed out that very quickly. But if I was to just slow down and show you that hair design in full illustrative effect. So let's just make a drawing of her right now. Right. Right. So I'll show you what her hair looks like when
when you start to draw and put more illustrative tendencies to it. So let's put a bit of that contour there, right? So first thing we figure out the side parting I told you about. It's a little bit low. It's based on my wife, right? Everything's my wife. So she gets annoyed when I call her Gracie, right? She calls Gracie she calls Gracie a hoe bag. Right, so basically this goes like this, right? And this comes here. Now, what I'll do is I'll start to add little bits of design in there, like maybe another line, right? Then this one will come up, and I'll start to put little bits of hair on the outside, right? Maybe that shape's a little bit off, but then we'll have this come on this side. So I'll have one come off here and curl around here like this, but then come through. Then I'll put in another line, right, in there like that. Then here we'll start to have interesting, like, so if I want to taper the hair out, because it's like that kind of like Michael Jackson zombie thing, I'll have it more kind of doing this. If I didn't want that Michael Jackson zombie thing and I wanted it to be more traditional Gracie, I'll have it more like this, right? Where then I'll come up here like that. Right. So there we go, right? So the hairstyle, and I've chosen a fat brush here, which isn't really giving the fine intricacies of what I really would have liked to have illustrated. But hopefully that gives you enough, right? And you could also tie it back like this. That's actually the traditional. She's got her two ponies, right, on either side, right? Fun character, right? That's her when she's not a zombie. But then that's basically the whole Gracie head turn. Hopefully that helps you. The tiger seems the type to do spin class, only popular because everyone adores him and his muscles. It's amazing how some people I never thought that. I loved my Great One character, but I never thought because my idea of handsome is more lean and lithe, so I never thought that people would find the tiger so handsome. The amount of comments I get on everybody thinks the tiger is so handsome. I never saw it like that, but I wanted him to look cool, but that's cool, awesome, I'm glad. Although he's the villain, I think people can be rooting for the villain. The phrase is tattooed in my mind and I hear it in AMB's voice. Awesome. My pleasure, Red Fox. As the media landscape changes, sometimes wonder if TV and movies are outdated formats. Not sure if I would structure an animation project. That's great. That's for you, Gibson Ridson. You should work as for how your energy is taking you there. If you want to go with the tide and structure and appeal. Me, I'm like, you know what? I'm a Gen Xer. There's plenty of other Gen Xers out there. There's, for me to serve. There's plenty of people who are discovering Gen X content. There's plenty of people who wish things could go back to the old days. There's plenty of people who, like my daughter, who like Gen Z stuff. She's 21. She's just finished uni, but she likes Friends and Sex and the City and all that stuff. I can't stand those shows, but
I'm like, at least she's into the Gen Z stuff, so, you know, she kind of gets a little bit of the stuff that I was raised on. I can get on with my daughter, basically. So, it's like I've got people I can serve. But then that's for each and every one of you. You've got your own things that appeal to you. I think a lot of people don't understand me. They really don't. They think that I think it should only be my way. My daughter was doing a music competition. There was a music contest in her degree, and various different artists did lots of different types of music. And there was one trans artist, and what they did was they did a trans opera, you know. And I don't really watch much of that stuff, and if I'm honest, it doesn't really appeal to me. But when I saw that, I thought I was quite impressed, and I felt the authenticity of it. And I went and spoke to the artist afterwards, and I said, you know what, if your piece wins, I actually think you deserve to win. Although I'd like my daughter to win, because I really felt a real sense of authenticity from it. So what real animator training is, and what my message is as long as you're being authentic to whatever it is you want to create, and you serve your community in whatever way you want to serve them, and that's your purpose, then hopefully things will work out for you. You shall succeed, because I'm a firm believer in authenticity. So while I'm very much enjoying recreating things that inspired me, and I don't enjoy the current trend of what's being put out there, and I want to cater and serve audiences that affiliate with my taste, there's so much other stuff out there being made for everyone and it's serving everybody of all their kind of taste and what they're doing. So if your inner calling is asking you to not make movies and TV, and you want to do memes or whatever it is, I don't know, you haven't been quite specific, but you want to cater to the modern audience, then you definitely should. You should pursue that. And actually, if you pursue that, you've got a bigger market. But therefore, if you have a bigger market, you've got a bigger competition. So just be aware of that. Trust me, there's a lot of fear in the world, especially for the politicians. You've got to ask yourself, are you a watcher or are you a doer? There you go, quoting more AMB. Oh, yeah, you're gonna make my head expand, can I? I've gotta go and watch some Milt Kahl and John Lounsbury and Frank Thomas and remember who what I've got to do. She'd fit very well with the Animaniacs or Tailspin. More so Tailspin, Daydream Dragon, but thank you, yes. I can see why you say Animaniacs, but I've got a private dislike for that show. But I can see why, so I'm not taking it badly. I'm understanding and taking this in. The doctor is off. Awesome seeing you again, Travis. I'll sell myself out whenever I want to make a sensible angle of the head, but my brain doesn't want to let that happen. You just got to, it's not about what's normal. It's normal for your present way of thinking, right? You need to empty your cup, right? There was a great saying, a Zen philosophy saying, where a guy climbed up these mountains to find this philosopher and this guru, and he said, I've come to seek out your knowledge. I've learned from every guru but you. I've come to the furthest, most brutal corners of the earth to acquire your knowledge. The guru said, sit down. And he said, I will pour you some tea. And he's pouring his own cup, and then he pours his tea. And then as he's pouring his tea,
it starts overflowing and it burns the man. He says, "What are you doing?" He said, "This cup represents your knowledge. This cup represents mine. I cannot give you mine unless you empty your cup and allow the room." So Daydream Dragon, at the moment, if you're struggling to make the puzzle fit, it's because there are things there that are stopping the truth that you seek from flowing in to your awareness, and you're too consumed by things that aren't working. So you need to give this, even if you developed years building those things, you have to come to a moment of truth from within and say, am I interested in defending where I am or going to where I say I want to go? So don't be ashamed and don't be embarrassed to do beginner basic things. Because as I often say, when most people, that's why I say all of those who are serious learners are drawn to the Real Animator Training Library. Sooner or later, if they really want it, they're going to have to give up some of the things and some of their beliefs about their abilities and their skills, and they're going to have to go, okay, I'll do his blasted bouncing balls and swinging pendulums and do his anatomical studies that he's talking about and this and that. And then, that's still not enough, because if you're doing it with resentment, then you're not going to grow. You're kind of like watering a plant and then kicking the dirt that you just watered it with. So you need to be all in, to say, I accept where I am, and I'm sick and tired of being where I am, and I know what it is that hinders me, and I'm letting it go, and I'm now going to do what is necessary to give me the ability so that I can be happy and peaceful in my heart, and I can actually feel proud of my work when I look at it. I will be a real animator. You already are a real animator, by the way, but often you don't define yourself as what you are until you see the outside projection, and that never comes for many people, and it never really does. This world really is like a reflective pool of your mind. Even the stillest water, the reflection will never be perfect. So just remember that. Lady Tarbury comments, tap into the furry community for sure. He is handsome. I never saw the great one as being a furry. I mean, I don't even, like, somebody asked me, are you a furry, right? Because of this Gracie Goodbear. I said, listen, if you like my work, I'll be whatever you damn well want me to be. Look, I'm a Gen X guy. Terms like furry didn't exist. I know what I liked. I know what I wanted to draw. And I went there and I did that. I don't really care for all these... if I identified myself by those terms, I'd be a very sad man. So I'm quite happy to just be doing what I'm doing. It says that it says I'm reconnected. So for those of you that didn't hear, basically, if I was jumping on every term and every trend made to kind of indoctrinate and turn people into zombies and really take those terms to heart, I'd be a pretty sad individual. So I really couldn't care less what people accuse me of or call me. If they affiliate with me and they want to call me those things through affiliation, great. But if they want to insult me through those things, great also, because I'm an old timer, right? I'm a Gen Xer. I don't pay attention to all that stuff, right? My brain doesn't really, that's patronizing of me, but I think all those terms are for children, right? Good luck. Okay, whatever you want to call me, right? Nintendo, good night. Gracie Goodbear is so attractive. How can one constantly achieve that type of appeal in their character design of animation? You see, this is it. I got a personal message, and I felt that guy, right? He's bought into my training library, right? And he was privately messaging me. He really doesn't like Gracie Goodbear. He's going, it's Uncanny Valley
there's something freaky about it, there's something sexual about it, I don't like, I would rather you do the groundhopper. And I totally got him. I said to him, I wished I would rather do the groundhopper, but right now, the groundhopper hasn't even got a fraction, like 1/10 of the attention Gracie Goodbear's got. And if I want to get a project off the ground, I've got to serve people. And he said, and I said, but you know what? I quite like the design. I think the design is appealing. I'm not going to apologize for it. So, one man's poison is another man's fruit. So, thank you so much to Mewtwo. But I kind of see that some people can't stand the design. Some people absolutely love the design. But I've just got to do what I got to do. I'm glad that you find her attractive. How can one consistently achieve this type of appeal? By studying, by not just learning the craft of animation and learning anatomy, but also studying great design. So I really appreciate old school Disney drawing. I'm talking really old school, like 40s, 30s, all the way through to the 60s and 70s. And then I grew up, I studied the 90s stuff. I like the 90s stuff, but I'm kind of like, Gracie's more like the 90s stuff, but I'm kind of trying to throw things in there from the 50s, like vintage pin-up art, Fred Moore drawings, yes, if you want to call it objectification, well, that's what it is. Hey, listen, I combed my hair this morning, I put on a shirt, I objectified myself, That's what it is. So I basically... I studied appealing designs of all kinds. I've studied anime, I've studied Picasso, I've studied Romanticism, I've studied Neoclassicalism, all those kind of things. You study live action film, you study costume, and you basically learn these shapes and you start inserting them, and then through time you find your own way. I don't know the name. I don't really know many names of anime artists. I just know the big obvious names like Rintaro, Katsuhiro Otomo, Mamoru Oshii, obviously Miyazaki. Don't really know the names, but I probably know the work. What are some of the best designed anime? I don't know. Listen, I like SNK, Samurai Showdown, King of Fighters. I like the video game character designs more so than the films. But if I'm going to talk films, for me it's Metropolis, Steam Boy, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Laputa Castle in the Sky, Grave of the Fireflies. Those are my kind of animes. Those are the designs I like as well. I really enjoyed Tales of Earthsea, but not so much the design. That weird evil guy, like the bendy evil guy, was kind of awkward looking. But otherwise agree, I want to take traditional skills back to the bleeding edge. You do that. But then express yourself. My vision is not your vision, obviously. I didn't think of it that way either. I grew up with Disney Robin Hood, so I get the appeal and the anthro animals. Exactly. Disney Robin Hood is that's my happy place, right? I always thought I wanted to draw humans, but then when I started getting into redesigning the groundhopper, I really wanted him to have an element of, what if Disney's Robin Hood was fused with the coolness of anime, but retained its Disney look, and that's what my great one is trying to be like too. Like when I did the Beast the other day, I realized, there's a bit of can feel like the tiger in here. I didn't even look at the Beast for that. I really wish I found this sooner. I missed out on a lot of years of quality animation training. Really great. My pleasure, Danger Dragon. But listen, never forgive yourself for failure. It's what is it? That slight misdeed of yesterday, why should it mar today? That thing he said, that thing you did has long since passed away. For yesterday was but a trial, today you shall succeed. And all the mistakes of yesterday will become some noble deed. Forgive yourself for failure, do not condemn the past, for it is gone with its mistakes and its memory cannot last. Forget the
failures and defeats. From such experience rise. Why should you let your head be bowed? Lift up your heart and eyes. Listen, you know, every day is either a day of failure or a day of success. I would like you all to just breathe the air in, then breathe it out. That air was once part of your experience. It's gone. You'll never get it back. And if I try looking for it in all of this, I'll never find it. And I'll kill myself looking for it. So that's what the past is. Good, bad, indifferent. Leave it. Embrace where you are now and move forward. When you're making the hair for Gracie, how can you tell which proportion you show when you switch angles? Balancing the silhouette, right? So basically, just like when I teach in the basics archive, squash and stretch, you should never free transform the ball, right? Like those people, right? What we do is we distribute mass. So this ball outline has got a bit of hair on this side, right? And a bit of hair on this side, but it's got a cheek on this side, right? So this is the negative space, right? Right? Can you see? This is the negative space, this is the negative space, this is the negative space, this is the negative space. Just so you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? It's a 3/4, right? Right. Now we talk about the front view, right? So we have the same thing, right? We just kind of like bring that out a bit. We kind of mirror that. We mirror it, right? There's negative space here, there's negative space here, right? Maybe a bit of ear here, a bit of ear here, right? Silhouette, this is why we learn silhouette. What's your character's silhouette like? Bit of hair on the side, bit of hair on the side, right? So, profile, right? Got all this hair, right? But she's got this aspect which makes me very happy but annoys a lot of people, right? So basically we're going to add a bit of hair like this here, right? And all of this is the negative space, right? Possibly needs to be a bit bigger, like that. All of this is the negative space, right? So this is like the Picasso Cubist thing, right? Look at the consistencies of the what's going on, right? There's a chunk coming in here, but look at the consistencies of what's going on, right? So, and this is also how you basically do all that anime stuff. See, so this could be like a front head, but it could also turn into a navel and be somebody reaching up, right? So, this is why we focus on silhouettes, right? So, same here, right? She could twirl and then suddenly be reaching up like that, right? So, that's how you do that Sakuga stuff. Because this shape, the overall shape of the character, the outline shape,
can morph and become something else very quickly, and you can switch between them. But what makes it better in hand-drawn rather than rigging is the artistic awareness of balancing shape and the ability to draw in your imagination. A lot of people that don't do 2D cutout animation, with the greatest respect to them, they can't really draw very well. So this kind of animation is simply beyond them to do it well. They will just pop into a shape, and think very linear, and they just repeatedly, it's like just using one muscle. It's like me, whenever I type, I only type with one finger. It hurts my eyes, my wife's eyes, when she watches me type. It's like, why are you just using, whether it's my phone, whether it's my laptop, just one finger. My other hand is dead. If then she says, use your other hand, and I start doing it like that, right? Because I've never really tried. I've never really worked those muscles, and I've repeatedly done that. So people who animate with software, they like to be all defensive and say, I know all that. You don't, but you don't practice it even if you did. You're out of shape, and which is why you're afraid of AI. And unless you do something drastic, you ain't going to be in animation any longer. And you got no one to blame but yourself, right? Real talk, real animation. That's what it's all about. That's why I love the word AI. It stands for artificial art. So what is the opposite, polar opposite of artificial? Real. And that's what we do on this channel here. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand that. Have you seen Thief and the Cobbler? The movie is not finished, but I think it's very beautiful. I don't know how the visuals... I'm not a fan, to be honest with you. I saw it first when I was like 16 years old. My brother wanted to get into animation. He went around the studios, made a few friends. He met James Baxter a couple of times when he used to work for Passion Pictures. Somebody gave him a copy of it. I watched it back then, very unimpressed, but I was only 16. Watched it again, and as I said, like Richard Williams, is great respect for him, but his interests were in doing 3D camera moves and all those kind of things, and having tiny little characters on the... Great, he wants to base it on that, but like computers do all that now, and it does all that better than the hand, right? And I'm not going to look at it and go, wow, he did it all by hand. I'm going to look at it as a piece of storytelling and a piece of filmmaking, and am I really impressed? Not really. I have a great amount of respect for Richard Williams. I think he's like an auteur, like Miyazaki and Don Bluth. He's one of the best out there, but that doesn't mean, like, Miyazaki is not a great draftsman nor a great animator, as much as people may hate hearing that. Just look at his art of books, right? I got one right here. Thumb through a load of original Miyazaki drawings here. It's not his drawing, and Walt Disney couldn't draw. Walt Disney couldn't animate particularly well, right? Yet whose name is constantly associated with the best animation that was ever done, right? So people need to stop being defensive when I say things, and I'm not saying that you are getting annoyed, but some of you might be triggered. But Richard Williams, if you look at, like, with the exception of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I think is one of the most perfect films ever made, and again, Richard Williams didn't single-handedly animate that. We had people like Andreas Deja and Glenn Keane working on that film, right? So, with the exception of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, every Richard Williams things I've seen, I mean, you just look at his Raggedy Ann and Andy and his Christmas Carol thing. I did like the card player in Thief and the Cobbler. That was beautiful, exquisite, very intricate, blew me away. But with the exception of that, and you know, he was animation director on Roger Rabbit, I can't say that I've ever particularly found his work particularly inspiring, or thought I want to get to that level, or I find it to be, that's one of the best animators into my mind that ever lived. I think he's one of the most influential, and I think he can't be overlooked for the contribution he's given. But my personal take is Thief and the Cobbler is it's alright. Nothing to write home about from my perspective. But what I do respect about it,
and what I respect more about Richard Williams than any Disney artist, and what I respect more about Richard Williams than most anybody else, to completely turn it at a 180 if you think I'm downing Richard Williams, is the man made what he wanted to make. He was 100% authentic. He didn't kowtow, and he would rather lose his whole damn film if it meant giving in. And I respect that. I respect that. That's what a real artist is. So my opinion of his work and my opinion of him and his authenticity are two very different things. So for me, Richard Williams is a great person to model yourself on in terms of authenticity and passion. I think there's very few like him. He's truly a one of a kind. So that's what I think of him overall. But Thief and the Cobbler and most of his work, not my cup of tea. Okay, we have reached the end of the chat. Awesome. So once again, if you are a lover of hand-drawn animation and you would like to see more great hand-drawn animation being done, and or you might want to help me continue with my projects, or you feel thankful and grateful to me for the work that I have done, and I have helped you many times on free live streams, and you have no intention of buying my course, then please do consider clicking on the link and giving me a donation, because that certainly does help. I mean, many people bitch and moan about AI, but then they wonder who are the people who are... I don't like to say I'm not at war with AI. I'm not at war with not going to battle, but I'm a soldier for hand-drawn animation. I'm here making sure that hand-drawn animation is continuously being presented to those who claim they're passionate about it. So if you'd like to help me out in any way, continue to do that, then please do either click and donate to me from the link in the description, or you can, at the very least, if you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel and comment on the video once the live stream is over, because for whatever reason I'm told that helps it gain more views or whatever. I believe that what will be, but I'll be very grateful nonetheless. Which video games have designs that surpass many anime movies? I've told you. Samurai Showdown. King of Fighters for me. Panzer Dragoon. Maybe the finished designs didn't, but the whole Mobius inspired world and everything, it's it had the potential to be better than Nausicaa. But Shenmue, I like that. Modern video games, no. They want to be too much Hollywood movies, and they want to be... Here's the thing for me. Video games are trying to be Hollywood movies, which are trying to be video games, which are trying to be Hollywood movies, which are trying to be video games, and everything being produced to my eye is absolute shit, right? So, as I said, you know, I can't see the value in it. But if you see the value in it, great. You basically get inspired by it and move forward with it. Looks clean. Can you play it? There's nothing to play here. I was just explaining drawings. I was just explaining drawings. Look, I'll delete them. But I have been roughing out an animation which is far from anywhere near clean or far from anywhere near finished. It's not even in between. But it's something like this, right? She's going to be doing her version of the Thriller dance, right? So yes, doing great, but indie games are doing great, and may they continue to do great. I don't know these indie games, and maybe they're good, but doing great doesn't mean something's good. Like, it means it's doing great and it's serving people. It's good for somebody, right? There's all kinds of, there's extremely dodgy stuff on the internet between, animals and people or whatever, and I'm sure to somebody that's a piece of great content, right? I don't really necessarily think it makes it great, right? OnlyFans is great for some people, right? It's an extremely lucrative business, making lots of money for some people, right? But I don't see myself investing in that or spending any time on that, right? So, quite frankly, the thing is something doing great doesn't necessarily mean it is great, right? I have no interest for the movie Shrek, right? Everybody loves it, right? It does great. For me, it destroyed animation storytelling. It destroyed animation. Any game recommendation, if you had to recommend? It'll be wrong of me to recommend games because I haven't played games. The last games that I played was Shenmue 2, right? I haven't played it, and I like 2D beat 'em ups, and I just play old 2D beat. I've got an iPad here with all the SNK games, the old SNK fighters, right? So I'm not really a gamer to talk about games. I'm not going to pretend. The greatest game I ever played was Panzer Dragoon Azel on the Sega Saturn, Shenmue 1 and 2 on the Dreamcast, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Samurai Showdown, any one, King of Fighters, any one. Not the 3D ones, the 2D ones. So these are the games that I used to play. These are the games that I liked. I still listen to Commodore 64 music and work out to 8-bit Commodore 64 music. It speaks more to me than the fake wannabe Hans Zimmer music of today's games, right? I like authenticity. When games were first brought out in the 80s, they were pure. They couldn't be anything else. They were the most authentic they could be. The problem when new technology gets into people's hands, and we're seeing it with animation, AI, filmmaking, and it's been in games for a long time with the arrival of the 32-bit, 64-bit machines and all that, and the cutscenes is suddenly games are, for me, very unauthentic. They're trying to be like Hollywood movies, dodgy Hollywood movies. It's difficult to write a great Hollywood movie. It's difficult to write a movie like Blade Runner and direct it and have some of the best artists in the world come together and work on that, and we got a bunch of people just making these dodgy games for Sony with these crappy copycat Blade Runner visuals which looked more like some anime reject without the appeal of Japanese design, and then the awful script and bad voice acting, and I don't have time to play games anymore, but if I did, I wouldn't. I just go where I feel anything that's authentic, right? I don't have a problem with whatever it is, whatever subject matter it is, whatever if I feel the authenticity of it, then I've got time for it. If things feel just like dodgy, like bad copycat, little kids wannabe kind of thing. So I've got time for 8-bit, 16-bit. I still lift weights to the soundtrack of Golden Axe. I've still got time for that stuff. That wanted to be Conan the Barbarian, but it couldn't. So it had to celebrate what its medium was, and that's why it was so great. Now things are different. Yeah. So I'm probably not the right person to ask about video games or modern movies. What I am the right person to ask about is real animation, 2D animation, hand-drawn animation, and how to express yourself honestly and express your art in the most authentic manner that you can. How do you feel about Japan's effect on modern animation, American design? Again, modern American design is the most inauthentic, unappealing. You know, it used for me, American animation was still the best, but now it's the worst and the most unauthentic. But quite frankly, the Japanese has always had an influence. Look at Thundercats. That was an extremely successful cartoon, and it had that anime feel to it. But that was done with authenticity. And now you look at what's being done now. I don't feel it's authentic. I think it's jumping on a bandwagon, desperate to hit a trend and make money from it, and it feels fake. No offense, but it's not as bad as it looks. It takes immense amount of effort and skill to take one of those games, and I think at least you should try it. The thing is my friend, no offense taken. I respect your opinion too. I've spent 20 years, I don't know if you know, I've spent 20 years working in the film business. I've been a head of story. I've been an animation director. I've been an animation director for Lego. I've worked for Universal Pictures. I've worked for 20th Century Fox. I've worked for Disney Junior as a storyboard artist. I've worked for Cartoon Network. I've been a part of many a multi-million-dollar production. So I do know that there's a lot of people that collaborate and a lot of people that work on something. But listen, most of the projects I've worked on, I think, are a piece of shit. I think I'm a great artist, and I think that many great artists have worked on it. But it's like when it all comes together, when the vision comes together, and the money that's been put into it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. And as I said, I can't comment on too many video games. I don't pretend to talk about things. I switched off from video games when the Sega Dreamcast died. I didn't like I was a true nerd and a true geek. And I didn't like it when nerds and geeks became popular and PlayStation basically became trendy and the whole culture changed. And I grew up in that culture and I didn't like the feel of the change. I was like, you know what? It's time for me to leave. Nothing here being... I'll tell you what I do like, right? As much as I don't like the way it's gone in terms of the more realistic look, I'm a huge Street Fighter fan. And when I've got time to kill, I don't play it. I just watch online battles and I like to see if Daigo's still winning, right? So I don't like the fact that he's abandoned Ryu, which is my favorite character, because I believe Ryu stands for everything I believe in. So I kind of like this guy Yas now, or whatever, whoever the Ryu player is. So I'm just back in the Ryu players, watching Street Fighter fighting. But all of these 3D games are trying to be all cinematic and filmic. They just look like bad AI movies. And bad AI movies look like modern 3D games. So I'm just biased and I'm prejudiced against them. So don't take it badly. Like, it doesn't mean like we don't have to agree. I admit that I just have a negative bias and prejudice against these things because I don't like that look. I don't like that glossy, 3D, polished, artificial intelligence look. It's just not to my taste. Yeah, there you go. Hand-drawn animation. Don't worry, 3D animation has freaking replaced hand-drawn animation, but AI is freaking replacing 3D. So it's all what goes around comes around, right? And it's all good because now all of the artists are going to get together and we're living in great times because hand-drawn animation is now going to be embraced again because humans are going to want to be human again, right? They're going to want tangible things again. People are going to be wanting to see art on paper again, right? People are going to be wanting to go to live exhibitions and see original works of art again because the harder it gets to see, tell if something's AI or not, people are going to want to embrace physical things again. And people are going to like the more rough around the edges look. So it's all circular, right? the sleek polished turd people have had their sleek polished turd and they've bathed in it and they've you know, consumed it and bathed in their polished turd. Now we're going to go back to the rough round the edges, more organic, handcrafted stuff. So I think these are amazing times. I think these are amazing times. Won't necessarily replace 3D. There'll always be people doing 3D, but not the way they have been. I mean, LinkedIn is filled with so many 3D animators out of work. So many 3D animators crying right now, out of work. Sounds like I'm happy. It's not that I'm happy, but I'm indifferent because they didn't care about hand-drawn animators. So what goes around comes around. I'm not happy that they've been replaced, but I'm not sad either because they weren't sad about hand-drawn animators. So whatever energy you put in, as you sow, so shall you reap. I don't think they really want my pity anyway. Receiving a man's pity is one of the most pathetic things you can have, right? So I won't give them that energy either. I respect them a little too much for that, right? I won't pity them. All right. Thank you very much. What was it that Clubber Lang said in Rocky 3? Ah, pity the fool. Pity the fool. I won't do that to 3D animators, but it's you know, we're not far away from the whole modelers, and you'll always need riggers and modelers and things like that to fix the AI, but it ain't gonna be the way it was. That's for sure. It ain't gonna be the way it was. That's cool. I mean, they're not necessarily strong opinions. I mean, they're strong opinions for me, but they're convictions, right? And I don't look for agreement, you know. But I'm glad that you are strong enough to see that, and you know, that's the beauty of this world. You know, we basically. I remember people would always say about me in the industry, when I was working in the animation industry, they'd say, you got strong opinions. I'll say, why are they strong opinions? Because they're different from yours, right? Does that make them strong? Or do you feel their strength? Because do they make you uncomfortable so they're strong? I'm trying to understand why they're strong. Like I have opinions, like you have opinions. But what makes them strong? Well, strong is not a bad thing, but often in the term strong opinions means like, well, I'm never going to change his mind. Why are you seeking to change my mind? I'm not seeking to change your mind, right? This is a channel that I use to, and I'm not talking about you, my friend, Bad Tunes. I think you and I totally get each other, right? But you've given me a nice phrase like strong opinions, right? To just go off on another strong opinion about a strong opinion. No, but basically, that's what I feel is lacking in this world right now, is authenticity. And as the world is becoming more obsessed with artificial art, authenticity is getting lost. So I don't care if people accuse me of strong opinions. They're just my authentic opinions. And by the way, many people will like Akal will be the first, because he's known me for a long time. How are you, brother? That I've changed my mind many times, right? I say things with this much conviction, and then after I've gone through a certain process and thing, and I go, you know what, I was wrong about that. So that's basically what it is for everybody, but I think people are just too afraid to admit it. Like, everybody has their beliefs and their opinions, and they're too afraid to have any conviction because they fear that they're going to be stamped down by strong opinions. Just embrace who you are. That's your truth. It doesn't have to be forever. It's where you are right now, and it's your journey of self-discovery as an artist, because artists express themselves. And if that's where you are right now, that's where you are right now, right? And it's helping you get to a certain point. And when it no longer serves you, discard it, right? So if somebody was to show me a video game that was made right now and it was totally amazing and completely contrasted everything I said and blew me away, I'd be like, damn, you know what? You're right. I was wrong. But I think in general, I've got this feeling about video games, and I've got this feeling about AI and 3D and the way it looks, and that's the way it is. And this one example may prove that it isn't that way, but it's only one example amongst a tide of many, right? So basically, yeah, I mean, if you want to say they're strong opinions, thank you, because everybody would like to be strong, right? But I do know that, like, people used to tell me when I was working in the animation industry that if I didn't keep my opinions to myself, I wouldn't get a job. And you know what? I did the animation industry for 20 years. And the way things were going, the kind of drawings they were doing, the kind of projects they were making, I said, I can't take this bullshit any longer. I'm going to go out, I'm going to put my work on YouTube, I'm going to sell my work to people on YouTube, and that's how I'm going to live. You know what? And that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing. Because quite frankly, if being authentic is not what they want in the animation industry, then it's not for me, right? 20 years, I got what I got from it. What did Bruce Lee used to say? Absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add specifically what is your own. I got a lot of useful things from it. I worked with Disney animators, DreamWorks animators, Bluth animators, Warner's animators, all hand-drawn people. Some of them directors, sequence directors of the Iron Giant, supervising animators from Hercules, from Sinbad, awful film, from Spirit, from all these movies. Worked with all of those people, learned what I had to learn, worked with the director of Flushed Away, personally sat with him and storyboarded, drew and storyboarded while he told me which shot he was calling. Worked with the director of Flushed Away, just me and him in a room. Learned a lot. But then, when I wasn't feeling it, I left. Because quite frankly, authenticity is the only thing we as humanity, human beings, or as a humanity, have right now. And when that's gone, I don't have anything to say, right? When that's gone, it's gone, right? Where is humanity? Right? Okay. People know and analyze about the things they've been doing wrong and are the realest ones on a path to true understanding. Do you like Cuphead? No. I respect what they try to do, but no. My brother tried to get me into it. He's trying to raise some money to make something along those lines. I said, yeah, I'll draw and animate something like that if you want, but I thought it was going to be a platform game. It's just a game of boss battles. I wanted to like it, but the fact is, Cuphead is not as good as Mickey Mania or Mickey's Magical Quest or the one in Castle of Illusion on the Sega Mega Drive Genesis. I mean, it might have better, more 2D looking frame rate and all that, but the animation isn't as good because it wasn't animated by people who knew how to do that kind of animation. That was animated by proper Disney animators like Barry Temple, supervisor on Mulan. Yes, it was handmade, but that doesn't make it good for me, right? There's plenty of hand-drawn animation out there that's awful. Look at Wolf Walkers, right? So the it's not that I want to hate it. It's not all bad, but like, would I take a 16-bit Genesis game like Castle of Illusion over Cuphead? Yes. That was made in the early 90s. Why have we regressed? Why have we regressed? Animation-wise, drawing-wise, just because they've got the technology to make it look less pixelated, that's not going to get a pass for me, right? I'm looking at the double bounce walks. Oh, they're basing it on rubber hose. Okay, but can they do double bounce? Can they do Disney animation? I doubt it, right? Again, a lot of people think I'm being negative, but I'm not being negative, right? I've just spent all this time telling you how you can achieve your dreams, goals, ambitions, and desires. but I'm not easily impressed, right? I'm not even easily impressed with my own work, right? I'm not even easily impressed with my own work. So if I don't give myself a pass, why am I going to give these guys a pass, right? As I said, like, Kinai likes to quote me, are you a watcher or are you a doer, right? You can either create or you can consume. So for me, it's like, I'm interested in creating, right? I'm not a consumer. I'm done. I was a consumer when I was a kid, and I was a consumer when I was a teenager, and I was a consumer when I was in my late 20s, and that was it, right? Then I got all into just creating, just wanting to create my own stuff, being more obsessed about developing my skills, getting better, getting better and better and better. I'm more and more of a less of a consumer. The only time I'm a consumer is when I'm having family time, right? My wife wants to watch Stranger Things all over again. Let's watch it all over again, right? Let's see this Akira ripoff, right? But then, so basically, I'm not just going to sit there and look at something. I'll look at something somebody else has done as if it's bloody good. At a glance, I'll go, bloody hell, that's good, right? Sometimes I'll be growing on Instagram. I'll see some amazing animators and amazing artists, and I'm like, wow, that's really good, right? But then if somebody gives me an example of, like, I don't know, Cuphead, I'm like, yeah, well, it's not exactly Castle of Illusion, which was an 16-bit Genesis game, right? So why am I going to be impressed? Actually, I love those opinions. It makes me rethink mine. Cuphead was man-made, but I'm glad I'm making you explore yourself. Maybe the universe has put us together, but I have no desire to change your opinion. In fact, if you rethink your opinion and are even more convinced, then good, right? Because you know, either way, it'll be of help, right? At least they tried. It was some fans and retro boss. Yes, I'll agree with you on there. I admire their passion and I admire their vision and I celebrate that. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, and it was good, but it wasn't great, right? I mean, for me, as I said, Castle of Illusion, like, it was better animated than the Capcom Mickey game, Mickey's Magical Quest. They didn't really animate Mickey properly, right? But then Mickey's Magical Quest on the Super Nintendo at least had better level design, better music, more atmosphere, so yeah. I love Last Blade. Amano's my favorite character, right? YouTube is cutting, I'm gonna leave. Yeah, I'm gonna be leaving soon. I've had three and a half hours of this live stream. Samurai Showdown 2 is awesome. I love the character Seeger. Seeger, that knight. Amazing music. The Wanfu stage and the Seeger stage are my favorite because of the background music and the ambience and the atmosphere. See, that's what I love, what Akau's just talked about. Samurai Showdown 2. I'm going to go and practice some hardcore martial arts while listening to the soundtrack of Wanfu the Tiger and Seeger when I finish this live stream. That's what I'm going to go and do. See, that's the kind of stuff that I think is good. Will we be blessed by a film or media made by you anytime in the future? That's what I'm working on, my friend Bad Tunes. I have a training library which sustains me, but slowly I've been trying to create content. Now I've got some passionate ideas to create some really philosophical, powerful stories, but I think I've got to do this intelligently. I've got to kind of find things that engage with a certain audience and build the brand. So if this kind of pin-up bear character, which isn't the deepest thing, is what's currently getting attention at the moment, I enjoy drawing it. It's retrograde, it's cute, it celebrates the female form. A lot of people like that. I enjoy that as an artist. We always do that. We've always done that. Ever since you go in the National Gallery, you go in the Louvre, you see sculpture all over the world. That's part of being an artist. So I'm going to see if I can slowly start getting into this crowdfunding thing, and we'll see where it goes. But this is the direction. We want to get real animator studios off the ground.
with Gen X Productions and create authentic and content for authentic audiences. One last one I like was Dragon Ball Fighters. I've never been a fan of Dragon Ball, so it just put me off. But it might be a good game. You are the kind of person I want to talk to or get to know. I would love any media by you. Thank you so much. Listen, just at the moment, join my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's lots of great free content on there. And I'm always live streaming. I have a extensive training library at ambanimation.com where you can learn about me as well. You can learn about my history and my time in the industry. But thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Isn't it nice that we can both have different points of view but still have admiration and respect for one another? There's hope for this world yet. Awesome. Thank you. All right, so now on that note, we are going to end this live stream. So let's make it big.